Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and thanks for stopping by. Welcome to Starbase Weekly, the RGV aerial deep dive into images he captured from the ground and air in Boca Chica, Texas. Our dedicated team will guide you through with the latest updates and theories at Starbase, Texas. Channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon for future streams.
Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of Starbase Weekly. We're on episode 65. Glad to have you all back. Let me pass this along to Indian Star here.
Hey everybody, welcome to the stream. We unfortunately didn't get a flyover this week because of the crazy weather that's going on at Starbase. They got it from us in California. Sorry Mauricio, sorry everybody. Not my fault, we had an atmospheric river. Let me pass it over to Dave.
And hello everybody, and welcome to the stream. We've got lots of ground photos and an abundance of launch site ground photos. And I'm going to pass it to Thomas, and if we can pass it back to Mauricio real quick for some memberships.
Thank you, Dave. I've been going through mobily and I'm out remotely doing the live stream with you, everybody here. So it's going to be an interesting show on my side as well. Back to you, Indian Star or Dave or anybody else.
I think we're going back to Mauricio, right?
Yeah, real quick here. We got a few memberships here at the start of the streams. We got John Parker as a flight supporter. Thank you so much. We got, we also have T. Evans NC. He gifted one RGV aerial photography membership. And we got Jim Cavett as well that gifted another membership as well. So thank you so much for that. And like we were talking about earlier, we couldn't do the flyover because of the weather situation during our scheduled flight. And you don't believe us, check the weather right now at Hoop Cam and you'll see what I'm talking about. It's been pretty an inconvenience for us, but there's nothing you can do about the weather. It is what it is, and we're looking at the next opportunity. Hopefully in the next few days we'll get a better weather forecast and we'll do one as soon as we can. And so yeah, we got a bunch of ground photos. I went out there yesterday, and unfortunately I didn't get to do Massey's because the winds were gusting at 40 miles an hour. So that was a bad idea if I went for it. So good thing I didn't do that. So, but we do have ground shots of Massey. So I don't know. I'll pass it back to Thomas here, and maybe we can get started now.
All right. So looks like first off on Massey's, we're looking at the 3 nitrogen tanks. So you can see kind of through the guard fence there, and this is on Massey's Way, which is a basically a public road, but everything beyond that fence is their property. So now we can see the nose cone 31, and it's been fully attached to the jig. So you can actually see on the left and right. Oh, we're going through a few images here at a time. So if you want to go back, there we go. So the nose cone there is in the structural test stand. So you can see the. Oh, you might want to pause that part of it, Indian Star. So
Sorry.
yeah. So yeah, that's when we're looking at this. The other thing that you can actually notice is the left and right hand side. You can see that they've put
It's
on the hydraulic
not me.
flaps. Yeah, hit the space bar. It'll stop the.
Yeah.
It'll pause
I
it
got you.
there.
Forgive us. We're playing a little bit of tag today, and I'm the one that's it.
Yeah, so Indian Star's driving today, and I'm commentating and looking at the pictures with everybody else here. So if you zoom in on the right-hand side, you can see those black pieces. That is part of the flap actuator testing. So they will put stress on the flaps, or where flaps would be. They're acting as flaps, so you're looking at kind of some re-entry testing there. So this does max Q, and then re-entry testing for basically pulling the basically the flaps in some interesting ways. And you can see that they do have, looks like 2 hydraulics on the left, and it looks like the same thing on the right. If you zoom in, the top a little bit above that. Right there, yeah. So just zoom in on that side.
Right here.
So
right?
Dave, yeah, so in that area, perfect. So Dave, I'm seeing the cabling for those. You've played around with hydraulics here. So why are we looking at 2 lines on each of those?
Extend and retract.
Nice.
So you have one on each end of the cylinder. And while we're on this picture, I believe if we go up to the replacement nose tip, we will see hydraulic cylinders up there also. Yes. So this thing is very close to being ready to shake, rattle, and roll.
Yeah, so that tank right up there, I'm pretty sure that's just a Harbor Freight special. They keep doing this with a lot of their tanks. So it looks like it's a collection tank. It's not really pressurized in any significant way.
And the tank you're referring to is this one right here?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, wow. It looks like a mini little bobble.
Yeah, it's just like a Harbor Freight special. They're really cheap, but they're just putting hydraulic fluids in it, not compressing it. It's like compression would probably be less than that of normal air compressor, which is pretty funny because you're not typically looking at hydraulics and air compressor tanks. Usually those are completely different systems. As Dave has mentioned before, we had a long-standing argument about what was it, the can crusher, which
Can crusher, yes.
yeah, we were looking at it. It was like they're using compressor tanks, and there's like no way they're using them for something else, and no, they were using them for hydraulics. It's just you're accumulating all your liquids and storing them there before you're actually using it and compressing it into the rest of the system.
Well, and this is another, scales are deceiving. That tank is probably 4 feet tall.
Yeah. And the interesting another interesting bit is the chains. It looks like they replaced those, if I remember right, because there was poles, but maybe there was chains the whole time. You could see at least one of the 2 hydraulics that push it in the X and Y direction. And you would, let's say, call Z the up and down. So you can basically get that nose cone test to simulate the forces going on the way up. So you don't want the vehicle to have issues, let's say, going through max Q. So that nose cone is going to pull down, and it's going to be pulling left and right and all these weird torsions and things.
Yeah.
You don't want to have that, happen in real life. So you want to simulate it beforehand. See if it will occur in the vehicle's structural article or not.
Yeah, because the nose cone is not a plain cylinder like the rest of the rocket, how it handles side forces and wing flap forces becomes a much more interesting problem, and is why they have the nose cone jail.
Yep. So one other thing we don't really see, but it should be there is it's hooked up hydraulically at least 3 different ways at the bottom on the inside. So that was something we looked at ages ago, but it's still there. And that's going to be simulating a little bit more of those like X and Y forces, but at the same time, it's pulling down to simulate that. But it's pulling at slightly different angles towards the center.
Yeah, we probably won't see that till we get the weather to cooperate and we get an aerial shot where we can see where the hydraulic lines go into the nose cone jail, and we should see them going under the bottom of the nose cone, going up into the center.
Yeah, I would also like to see if like we find any other welded lines. Can you scroll down a little bit, Instar, to see if we spot any weld lines? Okay, those are just the pins. For a second, I was like, "What was that?" Yeah, I don't see anything jumping out at me to say, "Oh, we've got new weld lines for pulling down on the nose cone in this location." So they're probably attached to some bracketry somewhere else, and then you've got the manhole to go inside. But that's about it, and we should hopefully, see this nose cone basically roll back at some point here in the near future after they do their testing, which we shouldn't really see anything except maybe comparing images, we'll see divots, and I haven't seen anything when we were scrolling down here, so it hasn't been tested yet. I think we
So
can move on this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go to the next one. This is pretty interesting.
There's the can crusher, and those tanks we talked about in the top of it. And earlier you were talking about how it kind of looked like, what was it, like a turret on a castle, or
No,
what did you
know
call
the
it,
rides at
Carnival
the
ride.
amusement park? Yeah. The one where you sit against the wall, you stand, and it spins really fast, and you end up pushed against the wall?
Oh dear, I don't want this one to spin. But yeah, that would be like a little bit of a scary way to look at that. I was thinking turret castle would be a fun one, but yeah, I could see that. But yeah, so you see the hydraulic tank. That's just I guess you could call it like an accumulator, or not even that. It's just the reservoir.
It's an accumulator, low side accumulator.
Yeah, so they did pull off. Was it 7.2 a little bit ago? So it no longer is in place. They've already finished the testing on that. So it's pretty good to see that they're still using can crusher to do the structural testing. So they basically just pull down directly on an article, and once they on this one that was like 7.2, they just did a weird test where they pulled on it in a weird direction with a hydraulic system that was basically simulating, I would suspect, like a some sort of not max Q, but reentry testing of some sort for the booster to say, well, will it bend or warp in these ways? And it looked fine afterwards. I didn't see any bumps or dents or anything, but that's kind of deceiving, because you can still have little fractures or other problems that occur elsewhere that you weren't expecting them. So they'll go through, inspect those, and see if there's any leaks during the test. Who knows what they actually got on the results.
Keep going?
Yeah.
Alrighty. Oops. I think I went too far. Hold me.
Oh, no, that was fine.
Oh. Okay.
Any of those.
We can talk about all of those. We have a lovely starship sitting here.
Hold up. Let me go back to where we're supposed to be. And then... Oh, geez Louise.
Sixth photo.
Sixth photo. Thank you, sir. So we didn't even start at the beginning?
Nope.
Oh well. We'll go back to it then.
Tank
Here's
was
where
fun.
we were.
Yeah.
Yeah, we started with the tanks, didn't we? So we are over. We were just looking at this one.
Right, so we haven't looked at the nose cone close-ups. Don't know how much more we're going to say because we zoomed in on the nose cone, so.
Alright, let's see. Dun, dun, dun.
That's pretty much the same shot we had from you.
The one we zoomed in on.
Which is just fine. We can go on to the next one.
Yuppers. And then more zoomed in on the middle part that you wanted to look at with the hydraulics. Aha, look at me.
The two flap simulators are all rigged and ready to roll. I got a feeling this is very close to ready to test.
Are these speakers right here?
Yeah, but that's in front of it.
Yeah, that's on the tower by the control building between the gate and the nose cone jail. It's half the distance to the nose cone jail. It just looks in the same plane because of stacking.
And there you go, Thomas. They even did your manhole. Or Mauricio actually captured the zoom in of your manhole. Of the manhole, sorry.
Unfortunately, the container is in the way, so we really can't see if there's hydraulics going into the bottom, is my guess, Thomas. You can see the two hoses coming down the leg, but you can't see where they go to.
Well, we know they're there. We saw them with the hydraulics at least at one point. They removed them, but we expect that they were probably on the other side, probably inside of the nose cone itself.
Yeah. So let's go to the next. There we go.
And there we've got the ship 25 and the cryo station.
And its quick disconnect, which is probably why we think it has been sent over here, was to align and test the quick disconnect system on this test stand area.
I'd also say it was just to commission the whole system too.
Yeah.
Can we actually zoom in a little bit more on that? I want to see if it's fully seated or if it's just close and hovering on that quick disconnect.
Looking at the arms, I think they're almost touching, so I'd say it's seated.
Yeah, it looks like they're touching. I can't see any gaps there.
Yeah. Which, given the weather this week, that's probably a good thing that the Starship is pressurized.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting one to look at, where we didn't have any need to cryo or do any conditioning with Ship 25, but the fact they've hooked it up and test the alignment, and they're probably also testing pressure on the system. And the one thing I haven't seen was like a full cryo on 25, but we have seen quite a few tankers over at Massey's lately. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's one of the steps that they'll take here, is they'll do a partial or full cryo on this as well.
When do you think we'll know? When they do the test?
We'd have to basically have Raptor Roost looking at it during the day, and there's going to be just a closure at Massey's way. There's just a police car sitting there. It's like, oh, something's up, because that's the time when you close it up, is you put a police cruiser, a sheriff's department from Cameron County in front of that road, and to say, we're closed, you can't enter here, and there'll be no public viewing of any kind on the ship or anything else really. So you'd have to use Raptor Roost to see it.
Real fast, some people are saying that they get an echo when I talk. It's because they need to mute my stream, right?
As if it's not on YouTube, then yeah, if it's directly in Discord, you'll need to mute the stream that you're watching in Discord, because it has its own separate audio channel. But if you're here on YouTube, then we got to fix that.
And while we're at a short break here, Mauricio, it looks like we've been getting lots of donations and gifts again.
Oh yeah, we've been getting quite a few here. I'll read a couple of them here real quick. We got Joy Bag of Donuts, $20 for the Rainy and Windy Day Fund. Thank you, Joy Bag of Donuts. I don't like the word windy and rainy in the same sentence, but. And then we have I Am Nate, member for 2 months. He gifted 5 memberships. Thank you so much, Nate. And JK Video, he became a new member for RGB Early Access. Thank you for that. Nose Cone Gel, $10. And how and when will they test the nose cones with the windows, which will have different structural integrity from the solid nose cones? That's a question for you all.
We're not quite ready for the structural tests with windows quite yet. We haven't even done manned flights with windows, or even tanker flights, or any flights at all. So that's going to be happening once that is being built and ready. So you'll kind of see that coming. You'll see big holes appearing on the ships, and you're like, what's that for? And it's just structural tests. They'll do some cutouts. They'll probably throw away that particular article.
Was that the sound of GP hitting the floor again?
I don't know. I think that was somebody else. I don't know. But yeah, the structural tests are going to be something we'll see eventually, but it would be before probably manned flights. So Jared Isaacman would be the first manned flight on a Starship. But we've heard from Gwen Shotwell and Elon saying it'll be in the hundreds of flights before we will ever put people on board. So I think we're going to see a lot of flights from here and Florida before Jared jumps on board. So it's going to be a while. It's probably going to be maybe another 5 years. And that's if they fly a lot of these from both of these sites. And that increases, let's say, the number of flights from each site as well. So right now it's looking at, what was it, 5? We need to go at least a dozen for this launch tower, another dozen for the other launch tower. And then there's like 49. Pad 49 will have 2. Increase that to about a dozen each on those each year. And that's still going to be a while. Then there's also 39A, another dozen there. So there's going to be at least probably a dozen flights per launch tower, but they're going to increase that over time as well. So you'll probably double it for each tower. And eventually Elon does want a ship built each month and then one every 3 days. So those are the numbers to kind of aim towards and look at. But it's nowhere close to where we're at. We're almost at one ship a month maybe, but we're not anywhere close to the one every 3 days.
All right, we have more donations here. So we got 55 Chevy Guy Steve, $20. Thanks again for the great Starbase views. And where is the recent Sunny pick? I gotta say, I didn't take Sunny this time just because of when I do quick trips to Starbase, I don't take him because he tends to not enjoy the trip, if you know what I mean. Like he doesn't. We're always in a rush. We're trying to get back, you know. I usually take him when we do these 6-hour trips where we get to walk around and be a little bit more relaxed out there. But I'll probably take him out this week. So I have some photos for you all then. We got Santi here. Oh, and thank you, 55 Chevy Guy. And Santi, member for 1 year. And he says, and 420 launch guys, thank you for the content. So yes, hopefully it happens that particular date. I'm pretty. It's already out there. Right? I guess we're gonna talk more about that later on. Jim Cavett here, $5. Thanks RGV Aerial Photography for all you do. Thank you, Jim Cavett. Sharpie, $10 just got on. Keep it up, RGV nerds. Thank you so much, Sharpie. Mike Smith.
I think that's funny, Sharpie, calling us nerds. Takes one to know one, Sharpie.
We got Mike Smith, member for 6 months. Actually, member for 11 months. RGV Early Access. 1 more month for 1 year anniversary. Thank you, Mike Smith. Jake Winlow gifted 5 RGV Aerial Photography memberships. Thank you so much for that, and please thank him in the comment section. We got Jessica Kirsch here in the chat,
Woot woot.
who is starting a donation train here. Who will match the $10 Sharpie train? Choo choo. All right, thank you so much for that, Jessica. JK Video following along. Here's a match for you, Jessica, $10. We got Mike Smith, $10. Woo woo woo. Thank you. Jim Cavett, $10. I am on the train. Thank you again, Jim Cavett. John DeVries, he's a new member. Welcome, RGB flight supporter. Nate, following along with another $10 donation. Choo choo. And then we have, thank you everybody. I don't know how to read some of these. So.
You do them impeccably.
Oh, by the way, we did get a couple more. Dave Avery, woo woo. That's why I like Indians start doing the donations, because she has a little bit better.
You do it perfectly. What do you mean? You do it perfectly.
And then we got one last one here. Astro Joe, got my ticket for the ride. Thank you so much for everybody that donated. I really do appreciate it. And it helps a lot for the flights. And we got one last donation here for Foulmouth Little Rocket Puke. $50 for whatever is needed the most. I believe that's our Rocket Profit there that just donated that $50 there. Thank you so much for that. And one last thing here. We did have a question here come through. Will SpaceX engineer the nose cone to withstand max Q, or will a Super Heavy need to throttle down because of the structural integrity? This is from Red Youth. question for you all.
Well, I think it was answered in the stream. Elon has stated they want to not throttle down and make the whole system strong enough to survive peak loading on the way up. If they get lucky, they get that. If not, they may have to do a slight throttle down.
Yeah, that's a huge part is anything you throttle down during max Q or anywhere basically before you go orbital, you are going to get gravity losses. So that's a big plus to be able to just power through it.
Yeah, I think that's the obvious advantage if they can pull it off of a all stainless steel, super heavy, built like a tank rocket that's going to get reused. The extra mechanical strength of the rocket means that things like the max Q throttle down become less of an issue.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking about the throttle up and max Q and everything else. Actually, yesterday I was over at Johnson Space Center. It was amazing, and I was looking at the Saturn V they have over there, and oh my gosh, the structural parts of it and how it just all fits together, and the max Q part, especially, just made me think about like Starship and how they went from the I guess you could say bare bones designs, let's say on like SN1 to even like SN4 where it had no stringers on the methane tank, for instance. And it's just more bulk as far as the structure element. They want to basically have this thing be rigid and hold its own weight without being pressurized. So that's a huge benefit there for being able to be rapidly reusable, but also the structural integrity. So you're looking at being able to make a fully reusable system, and that's huge. So, like, we've come a very long way, and Saturn V is a lot bigger than I even expected to see it in real life, and it's only like 1.1 meters bigger than Starship. So we're looking at 10.1 meters on Saturn V and 9 meters on Starship. So it's quite an interesting comparison when you're actually up against these things and looking at them.
They are
But anyways,
gigantic.
do we have any other questions? Yeah.
Well, we have the Endeavor here, and it's huge. Much huger than I anticipated, and I love it. Should we move on?
Yes, let's move on.
More pictures, more questions.
No more questions for now. We can move on.
Thank you. So look, it's a close-up like you wanted.
Zoom in some more.
Do you see what you were looking for? The fact that they
Yes.
don't? Okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
they're fully seated.
The quick disconnect is fully connected.
What are we looking at here? Just the shelves?
Yeah, I think that's the area that was the welding station that was to the right at Massey's. So it looks like they actually do have a couple of new things. There's a power distribution system on the left that just kind of jumps out at me. Yeah, so there's like a transformer or something.
I think that's the hut for the cellular tower. See the building? See the building behind the tree with the 3 boxes on it?
But it should have another fence. That's the thing. There's a fence around it, and then that's all surrounded by a fence.
I think the fence we're seeing here is the cell tower fence, not the Massey's fence.
Oh, I could see that. Because it does end at the corner on the right. That makes more sense.
Yep. And then we've got their ubiquitous storage shelves of junk around their welding area. It looks like they might have more valve actuators in those containers on top of the shelves.
Is that what these are up here? That look like Santa Claus's little...
Well, it's pallets with stuff stacked on top of them. So they're plastic pallets. They have the little nubs for feet on the bottom.
Interesting. You still call those pallets, even though they're not flat? Sorry.
Well, they're a blow molded plastic pallet that's real common. They stack inside each other, so when you have lots of things on pallets on and off, you can stack these and take up less space vertically than a wood pallet.
Yeah, we call them plastic carriers, essentially. Anywho,
Well, I mean, they're just a regular, as far as the warehouse people are concerned, they're just a pallet. They're, 3 foot or 4 foot square. Pick them up with a forklift, exactly like a pallet. They're interchangeable. It's just they're plastic.
fair enough. Let's go forward. Ooh, look at this. Pretty nice. Don't know what it is. Looks like a bunch of generators.
Yeah, well, I see some welding equipment and the generator to the left, the shipping containers everywhere because that's what they're using as the windbreaks for welding. And then there's a light to the right. But yeah, I can't really tell too much on this one. There's possibly details in there like that, whatever those curved pieces are underneath that red generator.
But you're missing the most important thing there, Thomas. Indy's pointing out the Starlink antenna.
Yeah, they've had that shipping container with the antennas on it. Oh, they're all over the place for the Starlink antennas, but that's awesome that they're using it over at Massey's. We saw like I thought 2 of them already from the aerial shots. There's one over by the water treatment place as well.
Well, it beats running network cable across the dirt.
And conduit and all that fun jazz. Oh, yeah. I guess that does hamper the fun.
Well, if I was in SpaceX networking and I had basically free access to as many Starlinks as I wanted as part of my infrastructure, I might make decisions like that too.
I think they still have to basically allocate funds to pay themselves to do that.
Yeah, but I don't think they have an issue about you're in a blockout zone.
Yeah, that's true.
I have a question. These strings right here, these are for pressure gauging, right? Gauging pressure?
Yep.
And this is what we've seen on previous test tanks.
So
Yeah,
those are the wires for it.
they're for gauging force, not yeah. I mean,
Okay, pulling and pushing.
yeah, whatever, twisting, pushing, bending, anything that distorts the metal creates a strain gauge signal.
And is this
Yeah. So
the...
this, I was gonna say the strain gauges themselves, they are just a little piece that's basically glued on to the skin of the vehicle, and as the skin, let's say, stretches or crumples or does anything, it changes the resistance values on that. So it goes up or down, and that resistance allows you to know if it's basically being compressed or stretched, and that's what you're looking for in those strain gauges is those values. You don't want to see a whole lot change, and then if it completely breaks, well, or multiple break, you've just popped a tank.
Yay, I think. And this...
No.
Oh, no,
Well, I
boo.
mean, I want to see one of those happen over at the corner of the Massey site. So that'll
I mean,
be
we want to see them use their burst reservoir collection area they've built at some point. I mean, if you're not going to burst, what fun is it?
yeah.
None, apparently. And this pencil sharpener looking thing, is it anything of importance?
That looks like a water
I
truck
think that's a
itself.
back end of a water truck that's parked there.
And we're looking at the reverse osmosis treatment facility in
Which
the
is
back
right
corner there.
here. Yeah, so the river's
Yeah.
back here.
Yep.
Yep.
Oh, look at me.
Congratulations, you're building a good mental image of Massey's.
One down, 556 to go, Dave.
Yeah, so you can actually see the strain gauges a little bit here, and then there's actually a couple hanging off the side to the left, which is a bit odd.
It may just be it looks like it's just the cables for strain gauges. They either haven't put them on or they've already removed them.
It looks like they're removing them, which is indicating they may have already done the burst test, and whatever burst has occurred was not significant enough to rupture it from the side or anything like that. It may have just burst at the bottom somewhere a little bit, and it's like, oh, there's the hole, there's the failure, and they're
Well,
done.
if we're lucky, it was the bottom dome and the tank itself is intact.
But at a certain point, you're testing these articles. This is SN6, I believe. So you're testing these articles, and you're saying, okay, well, we can't repair these things in space. They've already flown. So this would be a a pass or a fail depending on what pressure you've brought it up to. So like 6 bar is the, let's say, working pressure for Starship. And I think it's up to like 13 bar or something like that for, let's say, the methane downcomer. But then it has its own back pressure on the outsides of the wall, so it's like an onion. So you got pressure inside of pressure, which actually decreases the differential pressure, which is good. So
Thomas, you
I
said
don't think we'll ever get that high.
Sorry, you said SN6. This is booster 6, yes?
Booster 6, yes, sorry.
No worries. I just want to make sure because we were on a booster stand.
Yeah, I'm sort of thinking if they're going, ultimate pressure, they might actually consider a dome failure a good thing because that means you still have ship integrity up to the point where you can blow the dome out but not blow the ship up.
The question is, like, what was that pressure that they've had the potential failure at? It's like,
That's a very good question. You'll have to wait for the rumor mill.
yeah, the rumor mill will have it possibly, but even then, it's pretty restricted. I once heard of a number and I looked it up, and then it went away because it was on Reddit as well, and it was not something they wanted out there, so it got removed fairly quickly.
So we'll just start back at the first two that we missed, and then we're done with Massey's, and we can move on to Sanchez.
Awesome.
So this is what we missed. These are the two tanks. These are boosters 6.1 and 7.2, correct?
I believe so.
And then
I believe that is correct. And
ship
then we have 25.
25 and nose cone 30? 29?
31.
Doggone it. So close. And that's the little hat we always used to see sitting in the
Yeah.
Sanchez side?
That spent a long time at Sanchez, yes.
Yeah.
And at the build site, actually.
And everybody looks at it, thinks, oh, is that a crew capsule? It's like, no. Like, you could technically fit a person inside. It's larger than some of the first spaces that they had for like Mercury or Gemini on the inside of that, but it's still very cramped. It's nothing like Dragon. Dragon is a behemoth compared to that.
Oh, so you say it's like a Soyuz.
I like how quickly these things rust. So fast.
Well,
it's only the welds, pretty much.
Yeah, well, the entire thing is welded, so lots of rust.
Well, but it's also anything that's not stainless, like all of the
everything else.
Carbon steel that's used for construction. If they don't paint it, it's just rust city.
Rust-Oleum. These are dents, yes? These right here?
Sure look like them.
Yep.
Interesting. Could that be the rupture, if you will, or the test?
Probably not. That's an stringered section of ring, so it's going to be likely to dent just from the weight of the three rings on top of it and the dome. And as soon as you pressurize it, those all just disappear.
Pop out. That's what you guys said you heard that time they were doing the nose cone test when you were down there, right? You heard the popping of the nose cone because it was like filling back up with the pressure and pushing out the dents?
No.
Are you sure?
It was pushing. Yeah, it was pushing in on the hydraulic rams, and it was denting in. Because those hydraulic rams, like, you could basically, let's say if you put something on the cam crusher, like this, for instance, the hydraulic forces you have on that would be able to crush it easily. There's too much pressure and too much hydraulic power there, so you could easily crush these things. But they try not to do that. They actually go for a more reserved approach of saying, well, what stresses are we expecting to see? So they go to those forces, and that's why we were seeing it dent in on that, because it has a lot more force on the hydraulic side, and there wasn't any backing on that other side. It was just pretty much welded directly to the skin of that nose cone, and it was just the general shape of a cone, which is fairly rigid, but not rigid enough for hydraulic rams like these were, pushing in. And I do remember these dents on this article, so those aren't new, but it's always an interesting thing to see on the structural defects, or not really defect, but as you weld, you're creating heat distortion. So it's a heat affected area that you'll see on a lot of welds or along weld lines. So you see it to the left of where they've done all of the manhole. You see that little dent, and then just below it to the left a little bit, you see that second dent this along the weld line right there, and that should be the top dome. Or maybe, no, I'm sorry, the top dome should be just below that. But it's just along the circumferential weld.
Yeah, top dome's about 10 inches below that weld.
Where all these stringers are.
Well, if you look right at the top of the stringers, you can see another weld line below the ring weld right there. That's the dome.
Yeah, just above that weld doubler, just a little bit, right there. Down a little bit. You see that little line? It's just faint. There you go. That's the one right there.
Yeah. Okay. We ready for some Sanchez? And while we're moving, do we have any questions? I actually know we do. And do we have any donations?
No questions here at Massey's, but we do have Crane Man that just became a 1-year member. So thank you so much for that, Crane Man. And Rocket Future donated $2. So thank you so much, Rocket Future.
Yay, Crane Man! Sorry, I didn't mean to kill you, Mauricio.
Oh no, that's it for now. So thank you all for the donations, and moving on to Sanchez here.
Awesome. So what we're looking at is the bottom of, I believe, Booster 8. I keep doing that.
This is the new stand that we saw them pretty much make in front of our eyes, correct?
Yeah, they've done that a few times, but they're changing
recently
elements on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you zoom in, they've got these little rabbit ears that are right there. Or not rabbit. I was going to say Mickey Mouse ears. That they've popped up on all of these.
Thomas, they look like hearts. Come on now.
Heart?
You don't see a heart right here? Okay,
no, I don't.
Really?
Maybe a ghost from Pac-Man.
Wow.
Anyways, those are newer elements that have been on there for a little while, but they've been working on that stand, and you can actually see them working at it right there. He's got a couple of welders there working on adding elements. So there's elements that are up above, and then just right at this gentleman's knee level to the left, you can see they've added additional plates. So they're just go to the left a little bit, a little bit more, and there you go. So there's that new welded plate that they've been adding directly onto the side of these.
This thing right here?
Uh-huh.
Oh, wow. This says 12 or 2?
Yeah, it says like 2 and 3, I think, on the next one. Maybe it's other numbers, but it could be just the plates themselves were numbered. You can see another one right there, yeah. So they've been going through and adding additional structure to these.
Are they temporary or permanent?
This is definitely permanent.
But don't they look like they're sitting on this scaffolding?
No, the scaffolding's just directly below it and to the side. So we're looking at it as a stacked view. So Mauricio's got a nice zoomed-in lens that shows the elements being added here. So they're either looking at these stands being either used for structural reasons, like let's say doing a cryo test. You want to be able to use a test, or basically these as a transport stand and as a test stand. So that's one reason you would do that. Or you're having other issues, like you're increasing the weights of the boosters, or you're seeing some other issues. Let's say they have lines showing up where it's like cracking on the welds where that plate would be at, for instance. That would be a reason to do it, which you shouldn't have any of that happening. So you would basically put a plate down to give it more structural rigidity. I don't think that's the case here. I think it's more of like the cryo test direction. We're already moving cryo test towards Massey's. We have the cryo station that is for the ship, and the next one's going to happen soon, I hope, is the booster. So this will be probably the next one they have. And they have, I think, what was it? Booster 4, the transport stand over there, is the same thing's happening to that one as this one.
I like this. Anyways.
Oh, yeah, the QD area.
Yeah. This is an HPU cover, or is this a figment of my imagination?
No, that's the...
Because those look like the batteries.
The batteries just... that would be where the HPU was. I was thinking what you're looking at behind it.
Was, but then I realized the batteries are here, so this would be where the HPU cover was, and this would be what was under it. Potentially.
And the HPU is gone. So
Yeah.
yeah.
That would be the empty hoses they would have been connected to.
Those should just be the electric lines, so you got a negative and positive terminal for the battery hookup.
All right, shoot my bubble. See if I care. Some more close-ups. Is there a reason why this tarp is here? Just to block the wind?
Yeah. So
Okay.
as they're welding on these plates, they will use like a MAP gas, or not MAP gas, sorry, argon, or basically a noble gas, to prevent it from basically penetrating the weld. Let's say if you have oxygen or nitrogen, you don't want it going into your weld and messing things up. You want it to be using like a noble gas so you can get that weld basically in a clean way without getting contaminants inside. So gases like oxygen, gases like nitrogen can mess up the welds, but more of oxygen side of things.
And this is very cool. What is this? Why does it look so familiar?
So that should be for pressurizing I believe the LOX tank on this one. So that's going to be your autogenous pressurization line. So it's going down to the engines.
So that's not ullage?
Yeah, that would be ullage. It would be hot gas coming from the Raptors.
I feel like I should get an award. I'm just kidding.
But one thing I love about these is that you can actually see a little bit of if you zoom in a little bit more, the left side and the right side, they have a couple other pipes that those are basically bolted in place. And then you can see in the middle one, that's the one I'm talking about, is for the ullage, or the autogenous pressurization. You can see they've got a little expansion joint right there. So it's kind of like a bellows. Bellows as in like the thing that you see on the back of an accordion. So it can expand and contract a little bit without damaging everything.
Interesting. Also, Nate was making some points. He was saying that some think that new plate might be for an automatic clamping system, so that they don't have to bolt the booster in place, and that the hydraulic rams for the booster clamp plates are unbolted. The part of the booster sits on. The part that the booster sits on. There we go. Hello.
So yeah, you can see the back of the pins. There's supposed to be a hydraulic system attached to each of these. It's not. In fact, one of the pins is missing on the right. You can see the hole. Yep. Then you can see, of course, on each of the pins in the back, there's I guess you'd say, dirt and grime just surrounding where the plate used to be attached for the hydraulic system.
Where are you saying that
black
is?
Plates to the left. So on that black pin, that black box you're looking at, and then you've got a box inside of a box, basically. Yeah, that right there. So that's where the dirt was at. That was basically where the pin was attached. And you can see the pin above it. It's been rotated, so it's a hydraulic piston.
This thing right here.
That was right there. Yeah.
Look at that. Looks like a squid. Interesting. I like their little designs too. Each one has a unique design. Don't know what they mean, but they have a unique design.
I don't know what that is either.
Yeah, it looks like they had to remove the pins so they could weld the Mickey Mouse ears on. The pins were in the way of the welding.
There are some questions here about Booster Aid from Mini Dr. M. So Booster Aid is an organ donor. What organs have been donated to other boosters? I would say besides the HPU covers, right? That's one of them.
The HPUs themselves are on Booster 7.
And what else aside from that?
Probably just some small parts, if anything else. I would expect if they have issues with the batteries, that Booster 8 will donate those as well. But they haven't touched them yet, so those are probably fine.
Yeah, at this point, the batteries, as we just saw in the picture, are still on the booster. The only other thing I would think is some of the black boxes, or just, odds and ends.
These are those big yellow tubs that catch oil that are underneath the OLIT, where the big spindle things are. I forgot what they're called. Why can't I remember what they're called?
They're ones like that, yeah.
But yeah, they collect oil, as you said.
Yeah, these are underneath the drawworks.
Draw works, thank you. And that's an oil drum right there in that big yellow tub.
Yeah, it kind of looks like it's been leaking a bit. You can see there's oil all over the place.
Yeah. That's the thing with
Yeah,
It
oil.
could be, yeah, it could be oil or it could be paints, but it does kind of look a lot like oil and a bit of dirt everywhere.
I think
I'm
it's
guessing.
oil.
Yeah, I'm guessing oil, and that is their EPA required containment around a leaking drum.
That makes sense. This is
That's
unique.
looks like a ship transport stand.
What's behind it?
Oh, those are the outlets for the exhaust of their generator. So they've got a 13.1 megawatt methane generator. So it's generating electricity for the site. That's what they were using, and I think they'll use it probably once a month from now on, where they just turn it on to test it, or if they have blackouts, they'll use it, and that's a frequent in this area. So South Padre Island constantly have blackouts. Brownsville, occasional blackouts. So you don't want those to happen while you're trying to build ships and other things. You want some power to supplement everything else. If you start to overdraw, or usually the case of a blackout, it's like, yeah, you got to use something.
Now, this white thing right here, this is that measuring tool, correct?
It's a tripod with a stand on it, really. So if you look down, kind of goes to three legs.
Yep. But
Those are the part of the tripod, and the very top of it goes to the 3D total station. It's a tracking
right.
device that it's a basically 3D tracking with a laser.
It's meant for measuring, correct?
Yeah, exactly.
This
And
is
here,
that big thing that we see on the pipes with the OTF, right? Orbital tank farm.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's the valve. That's the
Yeah.
valve that
That's
opens it up. It's
huge.
pneumatic.
Why is it
Yep,
so big?
That's the size of the ones on the orbital tank farm. They are big valve actuators. They are big valves. It's one of those scale problems we have at Starbase all the time. Things are huge but don't look like it because everything around them is just as big.
We just need to put a Jessica next to everything, and then I'll have a point of reference.
Well, we got the porta potty there.
That's not the same thing as a Jessica.
I realize that.
Why are the porta potties orange? I've never seen an orange one. Wow. Don't have to answer that question. Look, Dave, it's their gate, and it has wheels.
But this one was designed with wheels, unlike a certain other gate that was not designed for wheels.
Look,
got
Ma.
wheels.
Look, Ma, no crush people.
Oh, that was a terrible accident. That gate. I hope they fix it or just completely never use it again.
They've removed it completely, my friend. They have cones, and they've gone back to the old style. They're done with that gate, it seems, or at least for now.
We're on the honor system once again.
The little square piece of that dust catcher that's on the ground, that's the best.
So here we have two valve actuators and a valve.
That valve on the left is just massive. These are all, looks like, using pneumatics for the valve actuation.
Pneumatic and spring, probably. Pneumatic in one direction, spring in the other.
Wait, so this
Spring
isn't...
to close.
Probably, yeah.
Is this not the thing that goes on the bridge crane inside high bay?
No, that's a valve. That's a butterfly valve. The shaft of it is coming out towards the black thing. Yep,
Yeah.
that's the shaft of the valve, and it's got flanges
the
on both sides that will bolt into the pipe.
Okay.
So that you're seeing the top and the bottom. Those are what hook up directly to the pipe. So that's the same, let's say, width of the pipe as that part is. So that basically would attach directly onto the pipe. So you'd weld it or...
And if you can, Indy, can you zoom all the way in on that valve? There is writing on it.
Do you want closer, or is that too close now? I feel like that's a little too close.
That's good.
Okay.
I can see the numbers, but they don't jump out at me.
So I'm seeing a tear. It looks like a tear weight, but I don't see it. I was looking to see if I could get a diameter off of it.
E39A, and then down here.
I think it's tear 39 alpha.
As
which
you
is
like.
sort of interesting because I think it came from 39 Alpha at KSC.
And then it says WCB,
Yeah, like I say, I just looking to see if
P5.
yeah, I don't see anything obvious, but I just figured it was worth. He got a good enough shot. It was worth seeing if there was some markings on there that told us how big it was.
It's probably this garbled part right here. But anyway.
Thank you for the zoom in.
My pleasure. Thank
And,
you, Mauricio, for the
and
amazing
Mauricio,
photos. Yeah.
yeah, I was going to say thank you, Mauricio, for nice, clear, sharp photos.
Yeah, most of these pipes, I've measured them. I'll use like, you've got 2x4s right there. I'll use that. And I usually get around 48 to 50 inches for most of these pipes.
Yeah, when we can see here, we've got at least 2 or 3 diameters just in this photo. The elbows are different diameters than the straight pipes. And we've seen that in the aerial photos. We know there's at least 3 or 4 diameters of pipe in this project, all large.
Yeah, they're gigantic. These are all elbows, too. You notice that?
Yep, those two on the left. And then you've got partial elbow, it looks like, on the right.
Yep.
And then the
That's what
long
I
one
would call
back
it.
here.
That's a straight pipe, I think.
Yep, it's a long one.
And the one behind it also, I think.
This one right here.
No, to the right.
That one. That's a... Are you talking about this thing?
Yeah.
Interesting. I thought that was just a slab.
Zoom in on that. I was kind of missing that entirely.
It doesn't look like pipe.
Yeah, that's a slab. I don't know what it is though. We'll have to
Look at
look
me.
for another image. We'll go to the aerial photos. Oh, we don't have those.
No. I recognize it. It's one of those pieces they've been welding inside of the inventory tent that are flat panels, but this one's like on its side or askew a bit.
Yeah,
You can see a panel behind it.
One of the polygon tapered pieces.
Where do you...
Yeah, there's a nice little. Yeah, so it's the one we saw on the flyover, and there used to be like 3 of them, then there's 5 of them, and then there's eight of them. But there should be like 6 of total of these pieces, so 1 for each leg, and then you've got a rectangle piece that goes beyond it. So on the top side, there should be some oval holes that appear of this particular element. So there should be like 8 or 9 holes or 7 holes or something like that.
Fair enough.
But yeah, it's all part of a deluge system. That piece, the pipes, they're all deluge.
And there are the famous ones that we all know so well.
Yep.
So here we have one pipe with all of the side pipes on it. That's new, and then the two, and we can only see one in this picture, manifold pipes that cross couple water flow.
Would that be this back one?
No,
Or the
that's
front
actually
one?
that's the one with the big long elbows on it. There's another one like that behind it that joins to it with the pipes joining up with the flanges, and the flanges will all get valves in them. And then the pipe with all the holes in it and all the little short tubes coming out of it is where the water is going to be the end of the stream where it's going to spray.
Where it's going to deluge. Got it.
Yeah, so the ones with the holes on the right side here at the bottom, that particular piece there, we expect that they will be putting the panels that we saw, that one that it didn't have any holes cut out on it yet, but we expect them to put those together as far as these pipes that are sticking out. They'll stick those on the other side, and then they'll stick them in here, and then make sure everything's all welded together on both sides. So that will just make sure everything's nice and aligned, and those are going to be very difficult to put together otherwise, because you have a straight piece right here. They're going up and down. Those are those are called nipples, but that's what the plumbers call it. And so those elements right there.
I call them upward-looking pipes.
It's the correct term, but anyways, those pipes, if you stuck those in, and then the ones that are down below, those go at a diagonal. Like they basically stick out at this nice angle, and trying to stick 2 pieces together like that, just it won't work. So you have to do that after the fact. That's why they've left them open like this. And I think they even removed a couple of the as you call them, vertical pipes. So they removed a couple of them and then left them all empty like that. So it's a order of operations procedure there.
Even closer, and it says water on it.
Yep, I love that.
Well, just
we
in
didn't
case,
know what it's for.
just in case we didn't know that this was Deluge, it's for water.
It's not for deluge, it's for water, Dave.
They're the same thing.
I know.
Well, I guess that's better than methane deluge, but you know.
Oh,
Yeah, no one wants to be under that deluge. This is what you were talking about, those pipes fit into?
no, that's just looks like a platform that's completely separate. It's got casters on it to move it around, but that looks like they welded a couple of legs on the right. I'm not sure
Yeah,
if they're welded or...
it's a weird thing. I'm not sure what it is. It looks like it's got cross pieces in it too.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. Go on.
This is back to the transport stand that was with booster 8 above.
Yep.
So it looks like he's working on some welding behind the hydraulic lines. If I'm looking at it right. Yeah, he's trying to get through, and those hydraulic lines are just all in the way.
Yeah, he's trying to weld with the plumbing already installed. Not fun.
Yeah. Talk about an afterthought. Oops.
Now that we're at the shop, we're at the booster shop. You can go back. So there was a question here regarding the booster here by Benedict Vaughn. The skirt on Super Heavy seems to add a lot of wasted mass since it has to be extremely strong without the tank pressure to support it. The question is, will they ever try to delete the skirt?
The booster does not have a skirt. The Starship has a skirt where it mates to the booster, and that has to be strong enough to carry the entire weight of the Starship, and that encloses the Starship Raptors. The booster Raptors all hang freely below the bottom of the booster.
But they have shielding, and that creates their little mini skirt.
Yeah, but that's all relatively lightweight.
Agreed.
All the heavy parts he was asking about are above the aft dome.
Yeah, so what you see right there, if you zoom up, you can see a stringer. Those go to the outer 20 Raptors as far as structural elements go. So it's not actually a skirt, as Dave said. It is basically the outside of the Raptors where it's directly connecting. You do have, I guess you'd say, a slight air gap that would be kind of like a skirt, but those have to stay. You're looking at 7,500 metric tons of thrust that you're applying to it. So this thing is going to be weighing a lot as far as the acceleration goes. So you don't want it folding up or anything weird like that. The skirt stays. However, there is an element just below where the engines are at, which would really be a skirt. It's a little mini skirt, I guess you'd say, just to protect the power heads on the engines. That's something I do hope goes away because it's just extra weight, and if you already have the engines protected enough, there's no damage that you can basically apply to the engines on liftoff from, let's say, ice, debris, or anything else falling. Then you don't need the mini skirt that are protecting those power heads on the engine. So that would be a good one to delete eventually.
Dave, you were right. You said Jaxie 3 times, and just wait a little bit, and Jaxie's here. He's in chat. Hi, Jax. Not that he'll respond because he's in chat.
Oh, he's in YouTube chat, not this chat.
Yeah, he's not going to be able to respond. What is this?
Look like some stands. Got some pellets. And,
do we need a water bottle?
Yes, I don't know the measurements on this, but I do have some 2x4s, so we're good there. Now we've got the scale.
Maybe we can use. Go ahead.
From Remedios here. This is at the corner Remedios, and just to the left, that's the hazardous material storage and ITAR storage right there on that fenced line there. and we're looking at booster 8 from the other direction. So what we're looking at for the most part on this side is the inventory side of the site. So you got pallets full of something. I'm not sure, but they've got more of it, and it looks like you've got your nice little Buckner crane doing the picking for all the parts in that massive pile. So on the aerial shots we've shown before, there's just massive piles of stuff because the inventory tents are filling up with all of that stuff, but they're still bringing in more. A lot of it's from, let's say, the airport or other parts of the other sites of this location. So Massey's, for instance, they had a lot of materials coming in, and they're storing it all here.
That's unique.
Yeah, it looks like they're water jet cutouts for parts, or maybe plasma cutouts.
But it looks like it is probably for like a LOX or methane header tank, something curved and relatively small diameter.
Yeah, I can't tell exactly what they are.
So are they meant to create tickets, or are they different than that? Because you said cutouts.
No, they're pieces. So you've cut out what you don't need, and you end up with a little extra. You have to take off that little bit of extra. So think of a wagon wheel and the spokes. You get rid of the spokes, and then you just have the hub, and that's what you needed.
So the spokes were only for support?
Yeah, they're just for support as you're cutting it out, and you're getting rid of the excess material, and then there's just a little bit of extra material that you need to remove. I
Yeah.
think that's what we're looking at for the parts there.
Well, this looks curved, so I suspect it's the other way. I suspect those are large holes that a pipe or something's going to run through, and the piece in the middle will get cut out when they're fabbing it.
So
Okay, so they're keeping the wheel, but not the hub and spokes.
Yep, they're keeping the rim, but not the hub.
Alrighty then, back to this. Other side, now you can see where the weld tent is. Before it was on our left side, now we're directly looking at it, so Mauricio's moving around.
He's headed down. He's headed down Remedios.
Yeah, I can't tell what things are when it's just tarp or just a box, unless you got a label on that box that is readable.
This is the inventory tent on the right?
Yep.
This is the inventory tent on the right. The used to be 3, and then there were 2, and now there may only be 1 pipe there.
I see a second one.
Okay, a couple of valve actuators peeking over it behind it, and then lots of stringers on those racks outside the tent.
These are all stringers?
Yep.
Wowza.
Pretty much.
And then you got a little arrow cover for the booster right there, and then 2 more at the bottom right. They look a little like teepee tents.
They look a lot like teepee tents, like Snoopy's tent. Doghouse. Snoopy's doghouse.
Yep.
These are close-ups.
That thing in the background is way far away. That's the boom of the DFC crane.
The thing in the back that's way far away?
The white piece.
This thing?
That's like 200 feet away.
Interesting.
That whole thing, the big long rib section underneath it, that's the boom and parts of the BFC crane that have been sitting out in Sanchez now for a year.
Interesting.
I think you meant yards, not feet, because that tent is like a football field in length.
Yeah, and then this is another half football field beyond that.
Yeah.
This is where photos can really confuse you.
Oh yeah, the stack shots are amazing.
I like the tags. They're so organized here.
Yeah, that is nice.
We've never
it's like
seen
Home Depot.
I wonder if we can zoom in on them and see what they are.
Oh, it'll just have the some weird number letter.
They're SpaceX barcodes.
Oh,
it has a weird letter and number combination, and then a QR code, and those go together. I scanned a QR code once, like, what is that? And it's the same thing that's on the label. It's just easier to scan a QR code than it is to type in the numbers and letters.
Which makes sense if this is inventory.
Yep.
Sorry.
Exactly.
Yep. And it actually says a lot of those tags say what the thing is, but you got to really zoom in because it's on fine print on each of the little tags inside the envelope. Because those of us that did some trash cleanup out around the launch site collected lots of little baggies that people had let blow away while they were working on the launch site, OLIT or OLM or whatever.
Why does these?
Lots of nuts and bolts and washers
Tie
and things like
wraps.
that. Yeah. The pipes you're looking at?
I was
Is that
curious
Wicker
what
Mouse?
these were for, and I was curious why this looks like glass.
Oh, it's the same Stoopy doghouse shapes. Those
But
are
these are
air
not
covers for the
reflective
booster.
like that. That is not as reflective as this. It must just be the angle.
It's
It's just
just
the
the
angle.
angle.
Okay. And then these pipes?
Those look like they're, I think, for the booster. As far as, let's say, the like methane tank, it goes through from the downcomer out to the outer engines, and it needs to move and loop down and around.
But nothing for the deluge.
No, it's for propellants. I think that's for methane, but it could be for the log side.
These are actual flight hardware, not GSE.
Okay.
And I just love how they're mixing the GST and flight hardware together in the inventories. Like, okay, it's not quite organized in that sense yet.
I didn't realize that the stringers are like chainmail. Wow.
Yeah, so they, if you zoom in, you can see the holes. They are called lightning holes, not like in electricity, but as in the amount of weight, so it's lighter. They reduce the amount of material, so it doesn't add to the weight of the vehicle as much, but it does add rigidity to have these pieces in there. So that's what you see on the inside of a tank, is these vertical members going up and down as well, especially down near the bottom of the LOX tank, where you have the engine like thrust puck and everything else like that. You'll see these kinds of things attach all the way down to that section.
And we've
Otherwise,
seen...
you just have...
Sorry.
Otherwise, you just have 4 millimeters holding up a 4 millimeter ring of 9 meters diameter holding up the entire thing. And so these are the stringers that you have on the outside and on the inside. These ones are more of the inside ones, though.
I was going to say, we've seen them on the outside as well. Yeah. These are metal, not plastic, correct?
Correct. They're like 301 stainless steel for a lot of the stuff. I don't know why, but they decided that the shell should be 304L or a derivative of that, and these would be 301. A lot of labels I've seen so far still say 301, but it could be they've switched over to 304L. But 301 should still work.
Why does it look like it has Christmas tree garland in between each of these rows?
Well, you're seeing multiple pieces behind it. That's just a
Even
little
down
bit of the
here?
optical illusion. Yeah,
Yep.
they're all just triangles, upside
Okay.
down, right side up triangles.
Okay.
You're looking through a whole lot of different triangles and different layers.
Yep. I tend to see things that aren't there anyways. Go figure.
Faces is a big one for a lot of people.
I don't think I have...
Seeing faces everywhere.
Yeah, no, I don't have the faces issues. I think I have depth perception issues. So, like, I walk into walls sometimes because I either think I'm thinner than I am or I don't have very good depth perception.
Oh, that's me in the mornings. I find the walls quite often.
Well, enough about us. Are these...
More and more stringers.
And these curved things are the same thing, similar to what we saw on the ground with the template-looking thing?
They could be doublers. So if you
Could
zoom
be
in on them, they might
doublers.
have holes. I
Yeah,
think
or
I
it
see
could
the
just
holes.
be.
They
Yep.
look... These don't look like
They've got
holes. This looks like when you
Yeah.
put the Mercedes symbol on them for the tacking of the tiles.
So the holes are where they do the welds directly so that they attach it to the skin. Instead of just at the perimeter, they do it on the interior of it as well. And so it's like a rubber band. They're adding strength to the materials behind it. Or you're just doubling it from, let's say, 4 millimeters to 8 millimeters.
Okay. These are those vents you were talking about, yes?
Yep, that's for the generator. So
This
it looks
whole
like
thing.
they're all closed. It's all off right now. So the vents, they changed them a while back. They were pointed up. Now it's got a vent system that goes off to the left, and you can tell when the whole thing is active by two things. If you see, let's say, that antenna in the background, on the last three or the last second one in the middle, you can see that there's an antenna there. If it was, let's say, really blurry and looked washed out and just like you were looking through a lot of heat haze, that would mean that it's active. It's not. And also the flaps themselves are closed. They're pointed straight down. If they're, let's say, at a 45-degree angle or 90-degree angle, that would mean it was open and active. Sometimes there'll be one that gets stuck open, so you have to watch out for that. So,
Two questions. Is
yeah.
this the antenna that you were referencing just now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It doesn't look like it's washed out, so these are all off. They are not using them any longer. I think they've switched over to Magic Valley's power.
And where is the part that you said is flat that says it's closed?
It's the piece just directly above your mouse on the ends of these, so it's like a little bit of a...
Here?
Yeah, just yeah, go up a little bit. It looks like a half circle right there, yeah.
Oh, on the inside of the mouth?
Yeah, it's a full circle. That's just a metal plate, prevents water and debris from getting inside.
It's like a flap. It'll open out when it's open, if you will, and it'll clamp up when it's closed.
Yep, exactly. It's just gravity driven, so it doesn't have a spring or anything. It just lets the flap close all the way, and only if you rust up will you not be able to close.
And do these things right here do anything other than look kind of unique?
There used to be some other things, I think, attached to them. This came from a mill out in Oregon. Let's see, was it Albany, Oregon? And they went through and moved all of this directly down here as it is. The only thing that wasn't brought down there was the shed that the generators were inside, but they built their own here.
Wait, Albany, Oregon? Is this the whole thing with you and Blackwater called and the bird and all that stuff?
Yeah.
Oh. And this down here are stringers?
Looks like it, but are they curved? Can you zoom in
They
a
are
little bit?
curved. Definitely curved. Definitely curved.
Oh,
look, even
those
here.
Might be... Okay,
See?
so the ones on the right, actually, I think what would be called ribbing. So they're these... They're kind of like stringers, but they're for the inside. They attach two stringers or the inside elements of the let's say, ship or the booster. I think that's what we're seeing here. And they've got little notches on each one, so you could insert it directly through or just directly onto the surface without attaching all the way.
Interesting.
But yeah, those are just little arcs, and then if you add them all together, it would make a 9-meter diameter for the rings like you would normally have. But these are just little sections of it. And if I say Jax 3 times, will he appear and correct me on that if I'm incorrect?
Only if we're lucky.
I hope so.
Ooh, he corrected you. Those are dome stringers.
Perfect. So dome stringers then. Okay.
Good job, Jaxie. At least he thinks that. But normally when he thinketh, he is righteth.
Yep, he's really good about these things as well. He's paid a lot of attention. Him and the Ring Watchers go over every detail and element thoroughly. See some flex lines. Nice.
Look, it's Joe Box.
Yeah, it's a job box.
Oh.
What they call it. So it's a job and then ox on it, so it's like job box.
And then we have a couple of cooling towers in the background.
Yep, those little flat pieces are cooling towers. They don't look like towers, but they are cooling towers.
These right here?
No, the rusty things up above.
These things.
The big white rusty things are fan-cooled water cooling towers. These, I think the fans are in the bottom and the water tank is the part above the legs.
Are they working in good working order? Is rust normal for these things?
Yeah.
Yes, because of all the water around them, rust is normal, but I don't think these are the active ones. I think these are the 6 they have stacked up to be installed.
And they'll have to test out each of the motors and make sure they spin and the fans are balanced, and then they'll eventually, once they're done with making the maintenance happen, they'll paint them and they'll be in place to make more of a commodity. So let's say they split off their gas liquefaction process to oxygen, nitrogen, and argon, for instance. You could split it off by adding additional processes to the stream.
And these are the things that are insulation for the pipes?
That's just, I think, a protective wrap around the flex pipe.
So insulation perhaps?
Insulation would be more of the ones, yeah, that are on your underneath your mouse there.
Yeah, I think what you're seeing there is a metallic braid that is the mechanical outer layer of the flexible cryogenic pipes.
Fair. And this thing?
Looks like part of an engine cover, but it's kind of weird.
It is kind of weird, I agree. And it's connected to this thing, this white piece, which is unusual.
I think they're both stainless steel, and it's just one of them's at a larger angle than the other.
Yep.
But they're welded together. You can see those little marks hooking them together there.
So they're stitched, and there's got to be a reinforcement on the inside there, stitched too.
I believe this is part of the bottom of the booster where you have the power head. You have those special covers. I think that's part of those right there. So this would be the outside of what we see, and might be maybe upside down. But anyways, I hope those go away eventually. So hopefully booster 2.5 or I'm sorry, Raptor 2.5 or Raptor 3, that they get rid of all of the covers and extra weight that isn't really necessary for protection down there.
Well, you know it's not necessary with those Ullage things are the not CPUs, the COPVs.
Yep. So the COPVs are going away. Booster 9s seem to many of them going away, but there's still a few left here and there.
Yeah, Elon doesn't want to get rid of them according to that video we watched with EDA. He seemed very hesitant. Like his lieutenants were ready to get rid of him. And he's like, well, we still need them. 13 of them.
Oh no, it was the opposite. He wants to get rid of all of the COPVs because they weigh a lot.
No.
So some of the COPVs weigh like 500 pounds.
I know that that's the goal, but in that video he didn't want to.
I remember as backwards of that he wanted to get rid of them. Anyways, the less weight the better, and the hesitancy is like, how do you get rid of something? Let's say you need helium, let's say for spin up, because you need a high pressure gas to spin things up. It could be helium, it could be argon, it could be a bunch of different gases, but you need to spin up the engine somehow. Helium is really good because it compresses really well, but you end up with this situation where you have a COPV that's necessary to hold that helium, and it's like, oh, that weighs a lot. So the two things they want to reduce is the weight, because that increases the amount that they can bring to orbit, which also increases or decreases the costs. But also another thing is to decrease costs. So helium does cost quite a bit, and if they could get rid of helium and change that to something else, that would be great. Maybe electric motors, but I don't think they'd be able to spin up to those RPMs. So you're looking at a whole different system, fundamentally to change in order to do spin ups for engines, because you're talking about high RPMs and high torque.
Yes, sir. Are these orange things anything of use?
They look like they're part of like water deluge system as far as the kind of the diameter that they're showing, but they're only half pieces. So maybe they're strips that you weld the two pipes together with. Got our kettle boiler back there, and actually you could read the label if you want to zoom in on that. I don't think we've seen that because there was plenty of stuff between. Oh, it's all either blanked or just slightly out of focus.
Slightly out of focus. Enhance.
You enhance it enough, and you'll eventually have
nothing.
Something hallucinated.
That's right.
From the machine.
You'll have a pixel enlarged. Ooh, look at that.
Not sure if that was a pump or a valve system. Dave, those two blue
I'm
pieces?
guessing valve, but not really sure. How many more Sanchez we got? We're probably needing to hit the build site pretty quick here.
We are almost done, Mr. Dave.
And we have a guest ready to appear.
Would that be a Jax?
There is a Jax in our chat who could join us.
We've got a wild Jax. Nice.
Okay, now this is an interesting thing here. Mauricio tweeted out the bottom part of this. That's definitely a load cell down there in the blue. So they've got quite a structure here. Pieces stacked on pieces, stacked on pieces.
Looks like they've got zinc or some sort of paint that has got zinc in it that they're using to fix the welds. And they've got a funnel that they're using to do that in the gaps. That's why it looks like bird droppings are coming off the side. It's actually zinc.
But it's also a very good shot of the claw that grabs onto the starship.
Yeah, zoom into that.
Looks like one of those Tahitian statues.
Easter Island
yes,
figures.
Exactly. Hi, Jax.
Hey. So, I won't lie, I hadn't intended on coming on today, but I feel like I was asked to, so.
Oh, wow.
Well,
here I am.
We said the magic invocation of Jax 3 times, and look what shows up.
And he shows up. What do you mean you were asked?
I don't know. I say hi in the chat, and everybody starts chanting my name. It's quite something.
Jaxie, Jaxie. We all chant your name. You're famous, friend.
Well, anyways, how's it going? I see we're at Sanchez.
We're almost done with Sanchez. In fact, you're just in time for the build site.
What are the chances?
That's what we love you for. One of the many reasons, my friend.
Well, it's nice to see that all of the load cells are hooked up and they've got conduit going to the load cells so that you can have everything wired and tested directly. So now they get weight measurements and it'll be on all 6 directions.
Okay, this looks like a Native American structure to me. Sorry, go ahead, Jax.
And exactly that. It's going to be in all 6 directions. Typically what they'd done for weighing the vehicles prior to this was they'd hang load cells on the lifting squid in the high bay. But when you lift it, it balances out. So unless you do counterweights and all that, but then you kind of throw it off. So this is going to be pretty nice because you'll be able to see that it's going to be heavier on the windward side and things like that. So it's going to be a pretty cool thing to use.
And this is only for starships.
This is for the starship, yeah.
Speaking of the build site.
Getting our first sneak peeks of it.
Yeah, we're going to be moving into it right quickly here. Wow, look at that.
So these are the caissons for that new building that we've been looking at that's going on the west side of the build site. It looks to be about the same foundation perimeter size as the Mega Bay. So that's really encouraging to see maybe a new Mega Bay or Ultra Bay or Michael Bay. Who knows?
Michael Bay. He's going to blow everything up. Do you see how high the water is? Like how quickly the water comes to the surface? They haven't even dug very far.
Well, it's been raining a bit recently. So I think that's what we're seeing is the just water from the rain because everything's all muddy and wet there as well.
Well, I mean, you can see the Caisson drill right there in the center of the
dripping.
shot. So yeah, but you can also see, they're drilling down 100 feet. Yeah, they're well through the water table. So that also means a lot of the water is getting pulled up as the drill pulls the dirt and mud up to the surface.
Yeah,
so
Thomas.
This is going to be a very messy area.
It already is.
And Ship 24 confirmed all tiles should be in place.
And we have a picture of that somewhere coming up, hopefully.
But no door.
It's like the Haunted Mansion at Disneyland.
Ooh,
No
zoom in on
windows.
that real quick.
Sure.
I want to see the FTS inhibit and see what they're doing over there.
Yeah. That's interesting, isn't it? What do you think's going on with that?
Uh, I think they're still not quite ready for the FTS. So once you actually add the FTS, it is in the FAA jurisdiction. You're basically following their procedures, and you're basically saying we're getting ready for this, and we're sending in approvals for launch. So I don't think we're quite there yet.
What do
Well,
we... Sorry, Dave.
I was going to say, I don't expect the actual FTS charges to get installed until just before it's lifted onto the stack. So everything will be ready, and they'll take it over to the launch site, and then the pyro guys will pull the explosives out and install them literally at the last minute before they lift it.
What do the red and blue mean?
That should be pressure for your
LOX and methane.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's what I
LOX
thought.
and methane tanks.
Interesting. Very interesting. All right. All right. We are ready for the build site. Let's do it. Build site. Starting here. And single view. There we go.
Yeah, still nothing on the windows. I don't see anything there.
Once again, we still have an open top mega bay.
With windows in the
waiting for
middle.
after the? Are we waiting for the OTF1 to say, how loud is this really going to be? Are the windows adequate enough? I mean, what's the holdup? It could be fire safety for all we know. There's supposed to be a building this large. I would expect at least some sort of fire safety system. They have pipes all over the place ready to bring up to be like that, but I haven't seen anything yet.
I'm wondering if they're got some pressure sensors up there, and they're going to say, okay, so we launched one, and this is the forces we see, and the glass won't blow out, so let's put the glass in.
And it's not a priority in a sense. Like, they don't need offices yet. They need offices when they're building a ship every 3 days. That direction, they're going to need a lot of offices for inventory, logistics, for management, for everything that you have. You might need a desk for it. And yes, there is a bent gutter. Somebody whacked it real good there.
And a little tiny radar dish up on the
this
corner
one?
there.
Yeah.
Yep.
And this is your
And
pressure,
actually,
potentially? Pressure gauge?
Nah, probably a camera.
Okay.
if you zoom in on it, I
yeah.
want to see what it is. It's a light.
It's a red light.
Ah, that's your aircraft warning light.
But I gave this some thought. So that dish right there, it's in a perfect position to track the booster all the way until it splashes down. And even then, when it has splashed down, you should still be getting telemetry off that booster. So at about 19 miles to 20 miles is just perfect for the mega bay. Actually, I was thinking of the high bay when I originally measured this because I thought it was over there. Maybe it got moved, but they will be able to track the booster telemetry all the way through until it splashes down.
They could have added a separate one here.
Could be. But I thought they had it over at the high bay.
Is this the one that we used to see on the ground next to the two big tracking dishes? Do we think that's the one they moved over here?
I think so. It's the same size.
Yeah, I think it is.
They're all the same size.
This is
the tracking dishes are
5
huge.
feet diameter.
I mean,
yeah.
Tom, it's not those two. But we just saw one on when we were looking at the other site. It was on right next to the light. It looked exactly the same.
That was a starling fish. This is 10 times that size.
Doesn't look like it.
Yeah, well, it is.
Yeah, it's a dish that's probably about 4 feet in diameter, somewhere around there. Yeah. So same width of as the pipes are. They're massive. But anyways, the idea would be if you could track the entire booster all the way and get the telemetry. It's like, we got splashdown and the engines are still good. That would be a very useful piece of information to know from SpaceX, that they can track it all the way until it splashes down. And they're looking over the curvature of the horizon. That's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about the seeing it all the way, because there is a slight curve.
So one interesting thing I'm seeing here is the attached building behind the Mega Bay
Yep.
has its garage door closed.
Yep. And the windows. I like the windows.
The windows have been there, but the garage door's been open so we could see in. Now they got them closed.
They're like, that Mauricio guy's here again.
Those 2 cranes in there were pretty cool. I'm going to miss those.
The ones that were in there, or the ones that are sitting
Yeah.
to the left?
There were 2 bridge cranes that were built into that little structure, and we suspect that they'll be used for moving around, let's say, engines. So Raptors, they'll possibly be big enough. The cranes were able to go beyond that. I think it was like 5 or 10 metric tons, or U.S. tons.
3.5.
3.5? Okay.
3 and 1/2 is literally the symbol 1/2 was on the beam.
But yeah, that would be still in the range of moving around Raptors.
This looks like Dilbert's dog.
Well, it's like the alien. It's the alien version of Dogbert. It's got 4 eyes instead of 2.
Do we know which one it is?
Do we know which one this is?
I know that was a rhetorical question.
Yeah, this is our new friendly tile ship, Ship 28. This will be part of its liquid oxygen tank. So kind of the middle portion of the vehicle.
And to the right?
To the right there, that is a part of booster 11. That you can see that triangular piece sort of jutting off the side. That's one of the mounts for the COPVs that go under the chines.
Oh, wow. And this fellow right here? The shiny, smooth one?
That would be part of booster 15, if I recall correctly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Their lead time on these vehicles is pretty impressive right now. I mean, they're building a lot of them. There's no doubt about that, and that comes with expansion. We'll touch on that in just a minute. We can keep moving on.
Quick question: are these just dark tiles, or are they punched out?
I mean, they definitely look darker. I mean, there's tiles there. If you zoom in on them, we might be able to see what condition they're in.
Ooh, they're just regular tiles, just dark.
I think these might have been glued in. You can tell the writing's different. So the rest of the tiles, they say OK at the top. These actually have
these say
a
OK
letter.
too, my friend.
Oh, but okay. So yeah, they're just larger writing. So they're separate though.
These don't say OK anymore. Or
that says OK.
Yeah, you're right.
It says OK, but really tiny. It looks like there was something behind here that they hadn't tiled, and now that whatever there was there, they have added their tiles over it.
Yeah, and if we zoom out just a tad, you can see the 4 orange rectangles. Or sorry, if you zoom out a little bit more, just so we can see the whole barrel, there are 4 orange rectangles that have been left untiled. And just like Dave mentioned, when there's something behind there, they'll leave it uncovered. So those are where the brackets for the header tank downcomer for the liquid oxygen header go. So they leave those uncovered, and those will get tiled over at a later date.
And the tape is basically to say this is a keep out zone. No tiles here.
But why?
They still need to weld it. So when you weld, you are creating a heat affected area. So you're going to be messing around with the tiles, and you do not want to accumulate heat behind the tiles. So that's why you don't see any backing behind it, which is the white stuff.
Yep.
That would be the KO wool or something similar. It's a mineral fiber blanket. And then the tiles themselves. If you add both of those, you could basically burn your weld instead of and basically make a hole in it instead of welding something to it. So those brackets that are specifically for the down pipe for the header downcomer. Wow.
So you're saying there's KO wool under the rest of these black tiles, not just these pieces? These
Yeah,
pieces.
all of it.
Okay. Okay. Fair enough.
Anywhere the tile's not glued on, it's got kale wool under it.
Yeah, so those black tiles, they could have done basically the glue version, or they could have put a kale wool and just a quick patch there with the rest of the tiles just pinned right into place. I don't see any evidence of it being glued because I don't see any glue sticking out the edges, but they've been getting better about that.
Oh, and this white here is the KO wool. The tape is keeping the KO wool from touching where they want it to go because this is the metal of the actual barrel, correct?
Oh no, they just cut the kale wool with scissors,
Right.
and the tape is just there.
Exactly.
So they just kept the kale wool out of the keep out zone.
Yep. That's
But
you go on. We're saying the same
that
thing.
but that one tile on the right, it's just they're like keep out of here, and then they're like, nah, we're gonna go ahead and go into that area just a little bit. You see that one tile to the right? Yeah, it's just over that orange border.
Just a smidge.
Yeah, but it shouldn't really affect anything because it's in the center of that that they're really trying to keep things out of.
What are they doing on the left there? With that
Messing around with the forks.
looks like it. Is this black thing in front of us with the SpaceX X on it anything important?
The Jersey barrier or the little barrier? Oh,
That
that.
was like a job box.
A Joe box?
Got an air gas vaporizer there for argon.
That's one of the liquid argon to gaseous argon welding supply, welding gas trailers.
It's here today, argon tomorrow.
Wow.
There they are dropping, like in mid shot, dropping the rebar cage into the hole where they put a caisson in. It's not even all the way down yet.
Yeah, and this is at that site for at the former scrapyard where this new construction is going on.
And we don't know
This is
quite what this building is going to be yet, but we have ideas, correct?
it better not be scrap bay because it's too big.
Oh,
Wow.
Oh, the door's open. Hooray.
Just a
Cap
smidge.
open.
But we can see inside and
They
looks like
still
they're-
haven't cut the holes into wide bay yet.
Well, they have cut the holes for the sheet metal on the left and the right. There is a hole there, but they did not go all the way through. They probably cut it from the other side, I think. So they've avoided all of the structural elements or things holding it in place. But the sheet metal has been cut.
Didn't they have actual lighting in here before? Now they're just using string lights?
Maybe they don't have the electrical done quite yet.
Ooh,
But they've got enough to open up the door.
look at that.
yeah.
So this should be 26 and I'm guessing on the tank.
If we move forward a photo, we might have a wider shot that gives us some more perspective, or not.
It might be next.
So, yeah, I think we'll have something. But what we're looking at here on the left is the methane tank of Booster 10. And I think many people have noticed on the 24/7 live cameras this morning that it moved into the Mega Bay just overnight. So this tank on the left, that's the upper half of the booster, is inside of the Mega Bay for stacking now. Booster 10 is currently in two halves, liquid oxygen tank and the methane tank. The liquid oxygen tank was assembled with the engine section where all the 33 engines go between I think around March 13th, between the 13th and 15th ish, or something like that.
In the last couple of days, essentially.
Yeah, it was last, this week at least. So Booster 10's in two halves, and we're just waiting on that stacking now. Hopefully that happens pretty soon. And then yeah, for more boosters, front and center here, we can see one of those segments of Booster 11 here with the COPV mounts, front and center. just over to the right of it, we have a methane tank section of booster 11, and that you can see the increased number of internal stringers based off of the dotted welds. Inside of booster 11, it's going to have a much more robust um, design. It'll be able to support a lot more unpressurized. It might even be able to hold the ship unpressurized. I'm not sure how the payload would come into play with that, but an empty ship, it might be able to hold unpressurized, which would be pretty nice.
Forgive me.
Just
Are you saying that this one is more stringers on it, or this one?
so the one on the left has always had that many stringers, but on booster 11, a design change has made it so the one on the right is increased from what it was.
I
If you
see.
go back a photo or two to that booster 10 methane tank, we can see that's what it used to look like. You can see they're a lot more sparse. The dotted welds off to the left. You can
Yes.
see that
No, the left tank.
Sorry. Yes.
you can see that there's much more spacing between those internal reinforcements. It's interesting to see that as much as the tank buckling for these expendable vehicles isn't really as much of a concern for now, is they don't want it. They're doing stuff to counteract it, and this is going to be one of the bigger changes that hopefully helps mitigate that.
That's something we talked about before, that they've just been adding additional stringers. I mean, back to booster 1, 0 stringers on the whole thing, pretty much. Then they went from that to booster 3, a lot more stringers. And then booster 4, like there was no stringers on the methane tank. And then everything above that had stringers to the methane tank. They're just adding more weight. So it's easier to go that direction than the other direction of, we've added too many stringers and too many components, we got to remove things. So they're adding it to, I believe, just be able to be freestanding, unpressurized.
Yeah, and we're able to see, like you said, we're able to see this direction they're going. It's as much as reducing the mass is important. Right now, they just want a robust vehicle, and that's understandable. Um,
Single ring of
yeah,
importance?
that is a curious one. Um, that isn't a flight article. It's been sitting around for, I'd say, a couple of months now, and it's essentially that hatch on the ship would essentially enter into the payload bay, where you can access the Pez dispenser rack system and all of the pipes, electricals, things like that. But it's just like a single that they produce to emulate that section. Maybe we're going to see something like this go through a structural test. That's definitely an idea I like, and I think that it might be what actually happens, but
Haven't
it
we
remains
seen
to be
that though?
seen.
On 6.1, when we were looking at Massey's, it has that circular manhole piece at the bottom. Would that not be
Uh,
this?
on Nose Cone 31, it does have a similar one.
That's what I was
Actually,
thinking as well. Is that NoseCone 31? You've got the same exact type of manhole structure where you get access. It's tall enough that you can. This is 6 feet tall in total for that ring, and you just basically put your legs over it and you're inside.
yeah, it's they're pretty much the same design of ring. When Nose Cone 31 was assembled, actually, we thought it was this one, and it was kind of shocking when we found out that they had it wasn't this one. So we have a feeling that this thing's waiting around to do something. Normally, the weird stuff like this that doesn't get scrapped right away has a purpose, and we'll find that out eventually.
Truer words have never been said. We will find out eventually. And the dome?
Yes, that dome. I believe that is the forward dome for Booster 13. One of the interesting things you can see with this are the holes in the top,
Yeah.
and
And
that's yeah, they're pretty cool.
is it already
Those
sleeved?
It's not sleeved quite yet, so that you're seeing that Elon kind of described it as an L channel that goes around the dome. It's a mounting surface, and that's where the grid fin motors sit on.
Oh,
There are
wow.
4 electric motors for the grid fins, and they sit on top of that. And then the
Interesting.
2 holes up on top of the dome, those are where the autogenous pressurization pipes go into the methane tank. So there's a
This is
pipe that
straight
runs.
on. So we're looking at not a crescent moon, but a hole all the way around. It's an oval, and then you're seeing a
Yeah.
hole on the other side.
Oh yes, that's a good point. So the dark part you see through the hole is the inside of the cap, and you can just barely see the second hole through this hole.
Gracie
And
got
yeah,
really lucky on that.
it's a pretty cool photo to show how these autogenous pressurization pipes enter the cap, because right up from the engine bay, there 2 pipes run up to the top of the methane tank, and that's how it stays pressurized during flight. And we've seen, I believe there was a single engine static fire, an 11 engine static fire, and I also believe the 33 engine static fire were all testing out that autogenous pressurization system. So it's pretty interesting. It's a critical system.
Interesting, because it wasn't the autogenous system the one that he ended up scrapping initially when we were testing ships back in the day, like 2 years ago?
So that's a curious one. With serial number 8, the autogenous pressurization for the methane header tank wasn't exactly keeping up, and they lost pressure in there. That's why SN8 wasn't able to generate thrust and crashed.
Yeah.
And since then, for the header tanks, they'd been using, I believe it was helium.
Mm-hmm.
The
That was
the
for
mains.
SN9 only.
Okay, so I know that as far as we're aware, based off of the plumbing changes we've seen with 24, everything's back to autogenous. With the booster, I'm not quite convinced that the header tank's autogenous. It might be, but we just haven't seen enough to say yay or nay. So there's a lot of complex pipework and plumbing on the inside of these vehicles, much more than what you see on the outside. It's rocket science, after all.
Yeah, based on what I've seen, at least the pipes where they're routed for the methane header tank, or yeah, not the header tank, but the methane forward dome, that it should all be autogenous. The only thing that's not autogenous is the spin start and a couple other maybe pressurization preliminary things, but that's when the engines are off. You want to make sure you still have pressure. You have a little bit of extra pressure for either helium or something else that you might keep attached, but I don't know on that one. But I have not seen any helium since, really for pressurization reasons, since, was it SN9?
I mean, we see them have helium tanks on their farm all the time. We know that they keep it there. We see them change out those tanks, so they must be using it.
Yeah, so spin start that you're using helium, I think that's a
I don't know
crazy
about
idea.
that.
It's expensive,
Yeah, I
but
don't know that they're using helium for spin start. Spin start.
they are. They've got the lines that basically say like helium spin start or something like that. It's like, oh yeah, there it is. You can look at the images of Raptors and even the other part that you'll see for helium that they've used in the past, and I think they're still using, is bubbling. So they will use helium to basically put bubbles at the bottom of a booster or a ship and let it percolate up the cryogenic propellant, so oxygen or methane, and it basically absorbs and takes away the heat. So that's a really useful way of basically keeping your system super chilled. I'm trying to
Um,
recognize what that part of the build site was.
this should be looking in from Highway 4 through the ring yard, back
Oh
at
wow.
the construction right now. Anyways, this barrel is something I have found pretty interesting. We've been following this thing for a few weeks now. So it is a 5-ring stack, and we can see on the label, it says S32 aft stiffened barrel. So the aft section of ship 32, or the former aft section of ship 32, says that it was scrapped for
Pucker.
puckering, weld puckering, some some bad welds, probably by one of the robots in the Star Factory. They're bringing a lot of things online still, as far as I'm aware. So they might still have some calibration to be done. And it's possible that with all of the singles and different things that are being scrapped, it could be that they've had a bad robot or something to that effect. So yeah, this is going to be a non-flight article. It's not going to fly. And when it came out of the Star Factory originally with this label, it was just a four-ring section. So if you zoom back out, we can see a very distinct weld. If we count up four rings on it, that fifth ring doesn't exactly match. It was added on afterwards, and this was actually added in the Mega Bay, but not on the existing turntable. They have two in there, and we have no clue when the second one showed up, but we know that it's online now. Um, s- yeah, well, I was just looking through some flyover photos, and we're like, hey, cool. They had moved the four ring section onto this basically directly opposite the existing one. It's just if you look straight on at the Mega Bay, it's right of the doorway, and the four ring section had been moved onto it, and it comes out as a five ring barrel. So it seems that yeah, they have a turntable there, and as far as I'm aware, they've already started putting sections of Booster 11 onto that new one. Theoretically, this should allow them to essentially double their stacking rate for the boosters, which is needed. They've been stacking has been a bottleneck for the past couple of months. This is pretty exciting. So yeah, when you see this section, the bottom four rings were originally destined to fly, or they were dropped because of the weld puckering, and it was reassigned as a weld development pathfinder for the Mega Bay. It's pretty cool, actually. We should see another one of these for the high bay, actually, I believe, because they set up yet another turntable in the high bay as well. That basically means that the stacking capacity of the entire production site is doubled. They went from two turntables to four. And they used I think Marcus House's YouTube video this morning discussed a little bit about those, how they use the turntables. What they do is they put the rings on this motorized turntable, and there's a stationary robot that just, as the barrel spins, the robot welds the sections together. It's not done by humans anymore. Um, Oftentimes, this is why we're seeing much cleaner welds these days. Uh, if the robot's calibrated properly, they can do some pretty good work. But yeah,
So
uh,
you're saying they
a
have
lot of
two.
expansion.
So you're saying they have two turntables and a microphone? My favorite line in the whole wide world. Sorry,
What is that from? You've
it's a
said it before and I
song.
don't remember.
It's a song, and I'm not going to sing it to you. I'll
Okay.
find you the song.
All right. But one thing that you kind of left out that's worth mentioning is the double stacking part. That they're bringing up two barrels or like a nose cone in a barrel section and then stacking it directly. That's the craziest thing ever.
Yeah, that's a pretty big efficiency thing, especially with the nose cones, like you mentioned, because previously what you'd have to do, and I think if you move forward a little bit, there's a photo of ship 28 in the high bay just to give a reference photo. It's kind of looking straight on. You can see all three ships in the bay. Um, what they'd have to do with the nose cones was you have the 6-point lifting squid um, to lift the nose cones, but what they'd have to do is they'd have to get rid of the squid, put on a ring section lifting load spreader, then get the squid back, and there'd be a load of attaching, detaching, doing a bunch of things like that. Um, but with this double stacking method, like Thomas mentioned, which essentially is lifting the nose cone over top of another section, tying them together with cables, and then lifting them all onto the welding turntable at once. There's no switching the load spreader. You can just use one load spreader, no detaching the crane. It's just a big efficiency thing. They're still ironing out some issues with it. It hasn't gone perfectly every time, but they're getting there, and give them a couple more tries, and it'll get ironed out.
This is
And
your,
see,
sorry, robotic arm?
yeah, that's one of the welding robots right there, like we said, and so that's beside one of the turntables, and that would reach over and weld the sections, and that's why they had to do this Pathfinder in the Mega Bay. Is they never like to do the first weld with a flight article, just because sometimes they screw up. Maybe that weld puckering issue, like we talked about just a bit ago, or maybe they'll burn through. We've seen that happen many times.
Jaxie, is this a
Uh,
camera to see that what they're doing? Or that the
I'm not
machine
sure.
is doing what it's supposed to be doing? Because the
If
machine
you could
is,
zoom in,
yeah,
you could tell a bit more.
sorry. This is permanently structured here and can go either this way or this way, correct? The arm?
Yeah, the arm does rotate at the base, um, but this is really cool seeing the head to the basically all of the instrumentation on the left hand side at the top there. That
Why
is
does it look like it got
crazy.
mashed up?
That's all sorts of different pieces, all the track together on the end of the arm there to know where the weld is, probably clean the weld it, inspect it, all as it's moving around the weld.
That is impressive. It's at least one, two, three, four, maybe five instruments and components that will be used for welding there.
Yeah, my guess is looking at how this lays out, this rotates 90 degrees. So this is vertical, it would turn horizontal, and then all these things would string out along the weld seam.
But you have to, let's see, here's a couple of things. You've got like distance to your object. So if it's not correctly calibrated, you want to know exactly what your distance is to the rings. The top ring and the bottom ring, they should be aligned. If they're not aligned, that would give you a readout saying there's an error, there's a tolerance error that you do not have these correctly aligned for me. You're going to have to fix this. It's going to have some other information about the weld itself. And then you did mention it could be cleaning the welds beforehand. So that's a very manual process. But if you can do it all with it one go, that would be insane.
Well, I mean that end effector on that arm is almost 6 feet tall, right? 'Cause it's about 2 feet between the railings on that scaffold system they're using. In fact, it should be exactly 2 feet.
Yeah, production is at an all-time high, and there's no sign of it slowing down at the moment, at least. You can see right here, ship 26 on the left, ship 27 on the right, the two twins. Well, not really twins, but they're both naked.
Wowza.
um,
I
I
like 27. It's got the payload bay, and that's cool in my mind.
And this little half guy, is that?
ship 28 and ship
Oh.
28. Right now, we've noticed that for some reason they are going as fast as humanly possible with ship 28 stacking. We haven't seen them go this fast before with the nose cone sections. Ship 28's been sitting around for a while at the production site, the barrels. So it does help that many of the sections are completed and just ready to be brought out. But it just seems like they're moving really fast, and it might simply be to clear out space in the tents because the capacity has been hit and surpassed because they're just producing faster than they can stack, and that's why we're seeing all of these new turntables in the high bay come online in the mega bay, seeing everything speed up because you can output as many rings as you want, but if you're not doing anything with them, they just take up space.
Well, here's another theory, and this is a crazy out there one. I like your theory better, but I'll just say this one. The idea is that they skip ships. They could be skipping 25, 26, 27, going right to 28 after they do launch with 24.
Here's something to think about, and let's ponder this for a second. Booster and ship production is rarely lined up. When it's lined up, a skipping event always throws it off. We have to so if we look at what ship and booster are kind of lined up with each other right now, if we're looking at in terms of completion, Booster 9 and Ship 26 are on the same path as each other. They're getting engines-ish right now. Booster 9 is probably approaching all 33 of its engines, honestly, by now. We've only seen 24, but let's be honest, we haven't seen any in a few days. Most of them are probably in by now. Ship 26 doesn't have any of its engines yet, but it's back at the production site to receive them. Those two are kind of at the same process, and they've both been cryo-tested. Ship 27, Booster 10 are also kind of at that same point. They've been final stack, or they've gone through that final stacking or preparing for that final stacking. They're kind of synced up with each other. Because Booster 8 was skipped, Ship 25 was kind of left straggling along. It's possible that maybe they just kind of keep it up this way, and it'll just be out of sync for a while. Or maybe Ship 25 won't fly. Like that's something to consider because Ship 25 is outdated, but you also would get good flight data by flying it. So there's multiple things to consider. It's just something to think about because I've never found it, or no, I've always found it strange that when Ship 25 was at the pad, it looks like they were setting up for testing, but then they just never static fired it, but then continued on cryo testing Ship 26. It just never felt right.
Well, even worse is that these are kind of like Legos. They just stick together for each of the ships and boosters. There isn't anything that says you can't put, let's say, as crazy it would be, Ship 27 and Booster 7. You could put them together if you wanted to. It would be wrong in so many ways, but it would physically work. They're compatible, at least for the connections, the major ones that count.
And I mean, as bad as it sounds, I kind of liked that when Ship 20 and Booster 4 were retired because it was really easy to just count out and convince people that 20 can't fly with 7 or anything. It's not feasible.
Yeah,
it's not as simple anymore, and it leaves a lot more up and open in the air. But hey, I guess we'll see what happens in due time. I mean, they're setting up to test 25 at the Massey's gun range, and we'll certainly see something happen.
Was that the top of an engine mount we just saw going by? Can you zoom in a little bit? That might be over.
It's sitting on the shelf.
Yeah.
What do you want me to zoom in on? I'm sorry.
It's just inside the tent there in the middle.
Tent 1, there's an engine gimbal sitting on the shelf there.
Yeah, I was just wondering if there was going to be like a test article below it or something interesting, and it's just a gimbal. But the bottom of the gimbal is looking a little different.
I think that's sitting on the R2 gimbal mount that you don't get for a booster RB.
That would explain it. All right, well, I'm good. I just wanted to check it out real quick.
Check it out. Ooh,
back up 1. Downcomer partses and downcomers.
Yes. Look at that.
Indeed. That's a fancy looking part.
That is a fancy. You know what it looks like? It looks like one of those bird cages that they used to use to make sure that the fuel didn't create that centrifuge vacuum.
That's what it is.
An anti-vortex baffle.
Stop it!
Anti-vortex. It's slightly anti-slosh, and you also have debris removal for large debris.
Hopefully there's no debris that size inside.
Good God. That's like the person size.
Yeah, well, it's like a 2x4 piece somehow was attached to the wall somewhere and nobody noticed, and it gets pulled up.
Also interesting that we have this even marked with its plus Z orientation, so
yes.
we know how to rotate it going into the tank.
By the way, Saturn V, when I was looking at it yesterday, it had the -Y on it. I was like, oh, that's so awesome. It's kept through this entire time.
And these are the anti-baffles? Anti-baffles?
Anti-vortex baffles.
Yep.
Vortex and slosh.
Slosh baffles, that's what I'm looking for. All right, cool. Sorry.
But yeah, you don't want to pull any air in. So the vortex part, you do not want a vortex because it can pull air in. It just creates these bubbles that get pulled in and ingested right into the engines. That's no good. So that's why you have them up in that direction. And then it also does prevent a little bit of sloshing. So that's kind of an added benefit.
What is happening here?
I think there's two pieces, one to the left and then one that you're circling on the right, which is something behind the one on the left.
I guess this thing is what throws me off because it makes it look like they're connected.
That is one piece. So it's a box, and there's something up on the
It's a
top, and it's
box or is it circular?
well, it's a box without a bottom. Is what I can see.
There's a bottom.
No, it doesn't go across from one side to the other, like attaching to the bottom side to the from the left side to the right.
Okay.
So it's like a C channel.
Hmm.
That is interesting. And then there's a piece to it behind it to the right. That's that half curved piece. It doesn't curve all the way through. It's kind of interesting. It looks like they're going to use it to boot it, bump it up against like ships or boosters. Kind of like a work platform or station or something.
There you get the bigger picture of it all. Ooh, and look at those pipes. Are these the downcomers behind it?
Some more downcomer parts.
Those booster or ship? Those look like ship to the bottom right there and the booster right there.
Which one?
Yeah, the bigger one looks like a booster one.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd imagine that those are new parts just waiting to be assembled because the booster downcomer, it's not feasible to ship it in fully assembled. Like that's a 40-meter long pipe. So it's brought in multiple pieces that get welded together on trucks. So that's probably one of them.
Okay, forgive me, but it looks like Starscream is walking away from Transformers. Sorry.
I see that now too. Can you zoom in? What is that? It's a crane, isn't it? Is that a crane? It looks like more like a robotic arm or something.
Might
Looks
be.
like a telehandler.
That looks like a telehandler.
Oh, yeah, it is. Yeah.
Why does it have a microphone?
I don't know if you've mentioned it, but if you zoom out, or
It's
maybe
like a
one of the
mirror
next
camera,
photos
maybe.
over, we have one of those Deluge system pieces in the dome yard off to the right,
Yep.
which is pretty
Oh,
curious.
hello.
Here? Jax?
Yeah, zoom in on that. That's weird. It's on the lowboy there, that red trailer.
That looks like the Y piece.
I don't know. That looks like a
No,
T.
that looks like a T. It doesn't have the ribs the Y had.
Plus,
Yeah.
this is in a straight line, your little up pipes.
Yep. That's
Oh, is that an
possibly
elbow
from
facing
somewhere
us?
else.
I
No, is
think
that
so.
the elbow facing us?
Yes.
Is that the one that had the T with the elbow on the end of it? Or on the side of it?
This is different than what we've seen so far.
But the other
Yeah, I
thing
don't recognize
interesting,
this one.
the other thing interesting on this one is it has feet.
Yeah, I was looking at that as well, right here.
I think they transported this from somewhere else. I think they went to like Brownsville and picked this up because this isn't one we saw last week or even parts of it.
Well, the interesting thing, I think Indy might recognize it. Look at the license plate, Indy. Is that a
California?
California plate?
Yeah, it is. It is, it is. Doesn't it mean something funny? Because last time you guys were all giggling at the fact that they have these sealed on both sides.
Well, it just means it's capped. It means the only place for water to go out is the top pieces, and there's supposed to be another row beyond those.
Nothing else big connects to this other than the inlet. And I think that inlet piece is the elbow. That's why it's got the horizontal seam in it. It's just hiding around behind the air handler.
I think it's a T, not an elbow, because you can see the top nipples go all the way
No,
across
no.
to the
So
left side.
there's T, but then the pipe coming out towards us, I think, is an
Mhm.
elbow, not a pipe.
Oh, I see that it's rounded. Okay.
Yes, it swings forward on the trailer.
Yeah, that would explain why it's not hanging over the side of the trailer.
And also why but that's also, I think, the horizontal seam in it is the two halves of the elbow. That's how they make a lot of the elbows.
Coolio.
And it's about time to head down towards the payload
Yes.
processing area.
Yeah, we have the integration site. It's only got a few pictures. Should we do that, or should we go straight to launch site?
But yeah, just go through these real quick, see if there's anything we were missing that we need to mention that's priority like this.
I
That
kept
was a
it.
good one to go over.
While you do that, I'm going to read a couple of
Yes, please.
donations and memberships here. So the first one's from Pete 2.0, member for 11 months, flight supporter, sneaks in. Howdy, y'all. Thank you, Pete. Rocket Man, member for 2 months, RGV early access. Thank you, Rocket Man. Jim Cavett gifted 3 RGV aerial memberships. Thank you so much, Jim Cavett, for that. Jax, she's a member for 1 year, and also gifted 1 RGV aerial photography membership. And Pete 2.0, $5 donation. Thank you, Pete. Cosmic $5 donation. Thank you guys. Have a great weekend. Thank you, Cosmic. Mini Dark Dr. M. Oh, it's a question. I'll read that towards the end. Let me get the donations in through first. Jax, 1 year member for 14 months, RGB flight supporter. And thank you all for this weekly great stream. Thank you, Jax. Stephanie B, member for 14 months, RGB flight supporter. Keep up the fantastic work, Team RGB. Thank you, Stephanie. Cosmic, member for 2 months, along with a question. I'll read that out towards the end. Chrome Kiwi, member for 14 months as well, RGB early access. And 420 or 442, I think he meant to say, I think 420. And let's see here. Let me go back to some of the questions here. Well, we can move on. I'll gather the questions and I'll read them after we're done with the integration site.
Jaxie, this is the part you were talking about where they're grabbing it and pulling it up on the turntable?
Yeah, you can see the lifting the load spreader right there, the 6-point squid. Because it kind of looks like a squid. You can see that sitting there, which is pretty cool. That's a new crane, isn't it?
Which part is the crane? I only see the counterweights.
Yes, it is.
Oh, there it is.
There's a boom of a new crane being assembled there.
Yeah, you can see the derrick. That's the point that's going up.
1750, if I remember somebody's comments. I'm trying to remember. Or 1175. It was a small crane. It was like 1170 or something, like 100 ton, 170 ton.
But that's probably big enough to put up the walls for the new building.
Yeah, it is now. I believe it is now assembled. If we go check one of the lives, I think they actually got the boom all assembled yesterday.
Nice.
These are all these shots were from yesterday.
There it is from LVN. It's an LR 1160.
Nice.
Mauricio, we can hear you typing, my friend.
And quick question, Mauricio.
Yep.
What time did you take these pictures?
I went out there around, I want to say around 1 p.m. and I left around 4 p.m. more or less.
Okay.
It was fairly windy, wasn't it?
It's just good to get kind of the time of day. Is that between 4 p.m. and basically today, that crane got all finished and was now up. So wow, that's a really good view from the other side. I think is this still near Remedios?
I went back.
Remedios. Yeah.
Actually, I went back to Remedios and I got this shot.
That's an amazing shot now that everything's out of the way. That's an awful lot of caissons.
Yeah, so we talked about this last week, and this is actually a good thing to bring up. So um, we had brought up the what appear to be caissons, but they're just pads at Roberts Road in Florida. So there is no caissons on that one, but there are caissons on this one, and it does actually look to be they may have added another row. So there's actually 3 rows instead of just 2, because we had a bunch of L's that you could see, and it was just all the shape of just a 2x2 grid, and now you can actually see that it looks like it goes 3 across. So they are adding more. They are kind of going around in a circle, letting it cure, doing some more, and then that way you're not disturbing the caissons that you are just pour the concrete on. You're not pulling that up and messing it all up. That is cool. Thank you. Keep going, Indian Star. I love the white cones everywhere. Looks like trenching and some conduit. They still haven't done anything with those nice platforms for the boosters and ships in Mega Bay yet. I think that's going to be after the test flights, so maybe even the first 5 test flights.
And we are now ready to move on to the integration site,
Perfect.
which is only just a few photos.
Well, that's good because we've only got 40 minutes left.
Aye, Captain.
Yeah, these are Sanchez photos, so keep going through. I think you mix them together, which I do that too.
You mean you mixed them together? Just kidding.
Yeah, we did. I helped you out. I helped you mix them together.
Looks a little wet there.
Yeah, this is still Sanchez.
You think?
But yeah, we can go through these pretty quick.
There's the one with
there's the tiles. Yes.
Yep. Go ahead.
There are no missing S24 tiles on the nose cone, as far as anybody knows.
And that we can see, they've covered them.
And not even any tape holding them on.
I won't lie though, the gaps on those areas are questionable.
You mean these?
Well, the plasma is not going to get too deeply in there. It's just the hot air that the plasma creates that you have to worry about, and the stainless steel should take care of the rest.
I do see some large gaps a couple rows higher, so I'm not going to say it's anything.
Yeah.
That one tile, though, that disturbs me. Just not the third one from the bottom. Now it's 4th, 5th, whatever it is. It's just kind of sticking out on the left-hand side, and there's a large gap at the bottom. Yeah, right there, go up one, and then just to right. There you go. That tile to the right of that tile. No, not that tile. To the right, the other right. There you go.
That one right there.
Yeah, I don't like that one because it's going to grab the edge of that tile on the left edge.
And out goes that one, and that one, and this one, and this one. They'll all go flying out.
But the big one is that one, you have that nice horizontal seam that gets closed up by the left-hand edge of that one tile.
Not if it gets ripped off.
The plasma and gases go from left to right. The other part is the max Q forces for the aerodynamic, well, basically winds. You could basically go from top to bottom, and that one it's wrong in every direction, it looks like, from this angle.
Friend, how do you know it goes from left to right?
The plasma?
Yeah.
Because it's going to do the belly flop.
Windward to leeward?
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Fair enough.
Okay, so we're good with those now.
I'm going. She's a beaut, she is.
Yeah, she needs a little touch up with the paint, and she'll be perfect.
You guys and liking your women with makeup. Just like her au naturel, that's all I gotta say.
Well, it's just missing makeup, which is flaking off, so it either needs to all be taken off or put back on. Either way.
Listen, buddy. That's the end of these.
Yep, bridge cranes at the integration site. That's the first I think we've seen on the ground shots of them.
Yep. Other than that, not much interesting there. The 2-point lifting rig is just sort of laying there, and now we're ready for 555 launch sites photos. Actually, 226 it says.
Yeah, it's quite a few.
And a little over 30 minutes to do them in.
And there's the copper, hiding off on the side of the driveway there.
Here in the previous photo.
Last photo. There's a Cameron County sheriff there.
Oh, an actual copper. I thought you meant like there's a copper
No,
pipe or
I
something.
mean, the sheriff.
Yeah, I see him.
Probably watching that strange guy wandering around the mud flats.
Thomas, are you out there?
I'm not out there. I'm in Houston.
You're not far, is what you're saying.
I'm 7 hours away, so it'll take me a while.
Closer than you were yesterday?
Oh, I've
before
been
you
here
got to Houston?
since Monday. Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
I was hoping. This
here?
is something I scheduled long in advance. I was hoping I'd be able to get to the first OTF, and it looks like it'll be like April 20th, so 420.
Yes. He's been saying 420 since the beginning of time, too, so it's funny that it's coming back around. Is the FTS in that black thing? The dynamite?
Probably.
It is.
Okay, because that would be why they have...
The red diamonds are
yeah.
danger explosive placards.
Makes sense, then. I also was digging the fact that they have these things in front.
Now, those are just HESCO barriers to protect the shipping container from the rocket taking off.
Yeah, I think it's more to protect what's inside the shipping container, too.
Yeah.
Hey, you didn't argue. You said, yeah, thanks, Thomas. Oh, look at that.
Here's a good one. Okay, so if you hadn't heard, they have stairs on the other side now. So the that is a difference that has cropped up very recently. So they have now 2 sets of stairs.
Well, 1.5 sets, because they sort of stopped when they got this high. They went really quick to get this in, and then it's probably just because of the wind. But yeah, look at all the ropes blowing.
Right?
But they haven't put any more stair sections up for a couple days.
And this is still not done, which they'll finish probably when the stair finishes.
Well, maybe that piece gets replaced by one that has a bump out on it to go into a circular staircase that connects to the stairs.
So it could go either way on this. They could basically say, we're not ready for the stairs, but we're adding the stairs now because we have time. We're waiting for something else in particular. But the stairs is not a critical one. They don't have to cover them up yet. They won't last as long if you don't cover them for that first test flight. But the awnings and the entire launch table and everything else there, it'll help protect them in general. But it's really that one piece that's missing. They got to put something there. They already have a piece, but it just is not configured for stairs.
Right. I'm wondering. So my question is, did they build that piece and then decide to add stairs, or did they know they were going to do stairs all along and they didn't build the stair-shaped piece to confuse all of us?
The first one.
Angle grinders. They'll do either one.
Well, and to Jax's point, Marcus House actually talks about this in the video too, and he talks about the grinders being because they have a pipe that's like still exposed and you can see it. It's right here. In Marcus's video, they used the aerial, so maybe it's not this one. I think it's this one. But there's a pipe that goes around on the inside that's still uncovered, and they were saying that that might be why there was all this grinding and whatnot, because they're trying to shield it.
Well, that's the gaseous methane pipe.
Yeah.
I think you're talking about the Firex nitrogen supply, right?
Yeah, Firex. Yeah, the nitrogen's not methane. Nitrogen supply for the Firex. Yep.
Okay.
It's not very high pressure either, so it would not be able to take the forces that we're expecting to see on that. There's also a couple of other elements that were small gaps that they could cover, and that we have seen some small pieces. They were about the same width of the hold down clamps. There's a little bit of a gap at the top that they might be trying to fill up as well. Or I'm sorry, maybe it's at the bottom, but it was possibly to fill up a hole there, and that would be an interesting little change.
So this is where they were grinding, correct? Why it's all black? Sorry, Jax.
Something's there.
Something's there. Yeah, I'm not sure. What the big thing that's been happening this week that various cameras have caught over the last couple of days is they've been lifting up fairly large plates to the top or the inside of the ring, but nobody can tell where they're going till we get an aerial shot. Hopefully, the middle of the coming week, Mauricio can get up there and the weather will cooperate.
Or even a double whammy, Mauricio. We could go up at the beginning of the week and at the end of the week.
Somebody just posted the weather forecast. It looks like Wednesday, Thursday is probably the best day for flying.
Dave, why you gotta
Wait
poop
10
on my
minutes, it'll
parade?
change.
Yeah, why you gotta poop on my parade?
The weather we're experiencing now supposedly continues the next couple days.
It's rain, and it does rain on parades. That's why, it's raining on parades. But yeah, having one flight after the other would be fun.
Look, it's like the mini arms. Ha! With the hug.
Give me a little hug.
Yeah, it's like mini me over here.
Yep.
That's funny.
I still want to see them put the actuators on those so they can deploy them without having to use chain hoists. There's the IMAX camera.
This one right here.
That one right there.
It is huge,
well, it's
isn't
the box
it?
for the camera. We can't see the camera itself, and there's duct tape in front of the rest of it, oddly enough.
Oddly enough. It now looks like a face to me, and I finally see your faces, Thomas.
Put 2 dots on anything in a line, and you got a face.
Well, this actually looks like the Goonies face. The guy, who was the... He ended up being a good guy. He was the big giant in the Goonies. That's what he looks like. This camera holder.
I kind of see it.
If you watch the Goonies, you will see it.
Yeah, I got the 2 eyes, and yeah,
because it's slightly crooked and everything.
Yeah.
And you're like expecting him to yell chunk. Perhaps that's just me. I like the blue color. Whatever this color is, I really dig it.
That should just be the gray.
It looks better than the gray. Because the gray that they use is like a brown gray. I like that bluey gray. Gunmetal gray, I guess.
This is a darker gray because it's in the shade. But the good news is they've been painting quite a bit of the legs, so we're pretty much at the point where it's like, oh yeah, we're about to do the test flight, and then they're not. So.
Well, we don't have much longer now. It's only another month.
Yeah.
Literally.
Hopefully within the month.
Thomas, you're going to go home and have to turn around and come back.
Yeah. Well, it'll be a month and 2 days if they're going to actually do the flight, by my best guess, because it's like they love the Elon number of 42, so they put everything they can with 42 in it.
Yeah, I think Elon likes the number, and they all work for Elon, so they want to please the boss. Look at all those cameras.
And it's just a massive inside joke. Oh, and by the way, look at the caps on each one of these. These are
these are those
the kettle boilers.
Those are those
the kettle boilers. The new ones that are silver. So look at the very zoom in.
Oh, sorry.
You see, it's a star. That is so awesome. It's like Captain
Captain America. And it's 4 stars. Look.
That's a 5-point star.
No, I know, but there's 4 stars.
There's 4 of them.
Yeah, you just got a 4-star rating. Hello.
Ha! I get it now.
Yeah. Jaxie, you're not laughing.
That's why 4 out of 5 of us laughed.
I think only Dave and I got the joke. And Jaxie, thank you for your courtesy laugh. I appreciate it greatly.
But yeah, they've been getting it all prepped and ready for the orbital test flight. I think they needed to still work on was the methane side to do the same thing there.
I got a hunch that will start this coming week.
Yeah, and that was not booster 8, by the way. That was 7, just sitting there. They removed the covers again. We talked about the boxes last week with Zach. These boxes at the bottom. They do have a vent, and I suspect maybe a fan, but that seems to be how they are venting off the inside of the table.
We actually
Yeah,
saw them vent it too, right? We saw venting come out of them.
I think they're their exhausts downward blowing, and if we look, I don't think this photo goes far enough to the right. Just to the right of the missing shield, that section has 2 of them because they probably couldn't put one where the staircase is going to go.
Sorry, Dave,
Yeah,
I seem
things
to be
are
going
off
the
about
other
that.
way.
Yeah, go back about 3 shots so you can see it. One more.
There you go.
are. So there's 2 of them together there. So one for the shielded section and one for the empty section next to it, because the staircase is going to come up and would interfere.
But it's
That's
got
my
metal.
guess.
Yeah, it's got metal on the vent itself, which does 2 things. If you do have a bit of a flame, it doesn't want to transfer through that because you're basically wicking away that heat, and 2, it keeps out animals like birds. So that's really
It's
nice.
it's as everything else at Starbase. It's grackle proofing.
Yeah, grackles are awesome. They're up here in Houston too.
They're
They
gigantic.
are everywhere at Starbase.
And you said they act as fire retardant? Not fire retardant. It's fire.
Just flame suppression.
Well, they're called something specific.
Flame arresters.
Flame arresters. Thank you.
Yeah, these aren't intended as flame arresters. Like, you would specifically intend to build them in such a way that would be multiple levels of grading that would do the same thing. But this looks like at least that front, and I suspect the top has a grate on both of them. That would reduce the amount of flame that would be able to penetrate through there. If you do, let's say, a launch or a static fire, you're not going to really get much in there. And I'm hoping they still do purge out the system with nitrogen on the table, because it is fairly enclosed otherwise.
Yeah.
And one thing that they've also done, it does appear that they've removed the grates. So there was a grated floor that was the walkway, and it looks like they've removed that and put a plate down. And so now this is your only outlet for venting. And if you do, let's say, have a oxygen and methane rich environment in there, you pretty much have yourself a explosion ready to happen.
Booster 7 event.
Yeah, or worse.
Or way worse. This is
so
a
between
gold
Booster
fixture?
7 and SN4, or SN4.
SN4? Or anything up until SN10?
No. I mean, like, SN4, it blew up. It was like a giant pipe bomb. That's basically what they're building if they enclosed it and put methane and oxygen in there on accident. So that would be the worst case leak. That, let's say, a QD system ruptures both those lines for some reason. But it's one of those what ifs. So it could happen eventually. It probably would if you do not have any system to purge it out.
Interesting.
And just bending the pipes can also damage it, so it would leak. That's another thing. And we've seen that on the Cootie hood. Seen the LOX line do that.
Is there a reason why the scaffolding goes down? There's a tilt, it seems like. Or is it just because it's curved it looks like it? An optical illusion?
It's just, these are raw photos, so Mauricio hasn't aligned the photo, so the ground is slanted a little bit as well.
Okay, so does that mean the scaffolding is slanted?
No, they're all the same height.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just the horizon is slightly lower on the left, and this is really cool. Look at the pipe. Zoom in on that water deluge system. It looks like it's connected. So there's a gap on the rest of them, but they've been adding those little segments. And we may have seen those pieces earlier at Sanchez. There was those half circles that I was mentioning that looked like they were for putting around the pipe. And this is what they're probably doing. They're connecting the half circles together. So there should be a weld line on that. So it's basically a pipe around another pipe. That's how you connect them together. If you zoom in a little bit, you'll be able to see at least a weld line on the top piece, because they did cut these down a little bit.
Am I looking in
Yeah,
the
you can
right
see.
spot?
Yeah, just on the right-hand side, you can see just a little bit of a lip at the bottom, and then there's a little bit of a line. So it's in that rusted area that you can see a little bit of a weld line at the top and or on the bottom, and then you can actually see what looks like a weld line at the top as well. So they've
Here.
connected the two. Yeah, right there. Yeah, just
And right
above
there.
that. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Not this thing.
No, that's just a gray spot on the paint.
Oh, sorry. This is the lip you were talking about.
No. You had it just above that a little bit.
There's a lip here?
A little bit above that, in fact. Just a tiny bit up. There you go. That's the weld line right there. You see how it's a little bit lighter and darker? It's the weld line, and then you can go all the way to the right-hand side of that piece, and you can see how it bulges out a little bit. Right there. That's because you're looking at two different plates put together to make that.
If I didn't
Plus
know
we got
you,
a
I
little-
would think you were making this up.
No, you can see it on the left side as well.
Trust me,
So
if
you
I
got a little
didn't
bit of
know
a heat
you.
affected.
Yeah, I
The
know
heat
you. I
affected
know you're telling
distortion
the
as
truth.
well messes up.
Yeah, and those are the legs that we saw, the other pipe sitting on, the brown ones, the footies that Dave pointed out.
Yeah, it's got feet on those, so that's cool.
The other side of that Heskel barrier.
Hesco.
Hesco. Is that a shoe?
No, it's a rock, like concrete or something.
Interesting.
Wonder if a booster did a little static fire and launched a little bit of concrete.
Look at that. Why are cameras going either way, up and down? Or are they both pointing up?
They should be both pointed up. Unless
Interesting.
that ground is really interesting.
You never
That
know.
looks like they're both pointing at the tower. Maybe at the OLM.
Yeah, they're all pointing in this direction, except for those two. They got a lot of cameras now, don't they? Wow.
Yeah, those
Yeah,
cameras on the top left of the building, there's two of, or maybe actually three of them. And they're on a Moog mount. Those are like, $14,000 mounts
like
that just
that,
pivot.
yeah.
And you're right, there are three.
Yeah, so that's probably a thermal, a visual, and a zoom.
And what's the blue hat about?
I didn't notice that. I thought it was just a little weird cover, and that does look kind of like a hat.
I think that's actually an antenna. That looks like a radome on an antenna pointing up towards the tower.
I think Lab needs to go by and clean these cameras.
I gave them PEC pads a while back. They're a film cleaning
Look
supply.
at that.
You can use them on glass too.
Is this
Look,
also
little camera.
Huh.
Anybody want a webcam?
Yes.
That's the watch for Mauricio camera.
I was going to say, that's the one that Mauricio finds in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah,
And-
but the blue thing and actually the little thing below it, there's a little black cylinder below it, I think are both antennas, probably pointing up towards the top of the tower for communications. Yep.
Look, it kind of looks like Johnny Five.
Oh, and then there's another camera on the ground behind the HESCO barrier right there on the side of the building.
This one.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're everywhere. They're everywhere. There's one there. There's one there.
Oh, and there's another antenna up on top there. The one that looks like a that's an antenna. Just reminding everybody, if you go out to Starbase, they're watching you everywhere.
Yeah, the police should be running through your head the song that is. Hopefully.
Yeah, there's like at least 6 cameras just there, and then there was another like 2 to the left. So there's just cameras everywhere.
You know, these kettle boilers are starting to look like kitty cats. They don't look like hippos anymore. It's interesting.
Well, because you're looking at the other end of them.
I will refrain from saying anything.
Boy, there's a lot of job boxes sitting lined up there along the edge of that driveway.
That's so interesting to me. These pipes crack me up. Reminds me of Frankenstein and Frankenstein's Bride.
Now, what's with that bucket? Go back another image so you can see the top of that bucket, and it goes all the way down to. Oh, it's a chute for all of their debris. It's a dumpster
Yep.
right there. Okay. For a second, I thought it was like a slide for emergencies. They've got some interesting things like that.
This is what you were referring to, yes?
Yes,
Yep.
yes.
Gotcha. What is
But
this?
yeah.
That's the pin.
It's an alignment pin for when you lower the booster in place. You don't want the engines to hit
Oh.
the mounts or anything.
Yeah. Same thing that they have on the stand.
Yep. So
There's
it
no
pivots,
wait.
and
There's
goes
no
up and down.
stairs here. Why are the double
Stairs
boxes
are
here?
to the left. Stairs are to the left.
But they're all
That's
the way
why-
over here.
That's one section over.
Oh,
See the bump out on the shield on the next section over?
yeah.
That's where the circular staircase comes up in.
Okay.
And they'll cover up that circular staircase, so they need 2 vents for that area. So they have to put them basically. That one vent gets stuck over to the right, and then the one that would be existing in that spot is moved over to the right just a little bit as well.
And the booster door is open. Sorry, BQD. There we go.
And I don't think we can see it in this photo, but at least last time we were here, both the top and bottom door of the BQD are actually open.
I can see that the bottom one looks like it's open as well. Just barely see that right there.
Yep.
Yeah.
You can see the bolt in the unpainted area. They got a lot of cleanup to do here. That's the BART access spiral staircase around the leg.
Oh, doggone it. This is part of Bart?
Well, that's the staircase to get onto BART.
Because Bart's right here.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
But-
otherwise, you'd have to use scissor lifts or boom lifts to get up there. And
Yeah.
this is basically just take the stairs.
I'd rather take a scissor lift or boom lift. There's a lot of stairs to climb. My question is, does it move with the Bart then? Not the Bart.
Welded to the leg.
Okay, that's what I wasn't sure about. Thank you.
Yeah, if you look under the stairs, you can see the weld marks. all down.
100% agree with you. That's what I was asking. But this could also be some sort of light that is reflected for all I know. I tend to not know the difference.
Yeah, that should be zinc for basically anti-corrosion, and they should have painted these stairs already, and they haven't.
Well, maybe they're made out of corten and they're just supposed to look rusty.
Maybe it's a blade of paint, and it'll change colors when they're done.
Ooh, nice.
It definitely will.
Nice picture of the carriage.
Look at
Yeah,
that.
months ago, we were expecting to see a launch, and they were getting ready to, looks like, catch the booster, and they got all the stuff ready, and then they stopped. And that hole always bugs me.
Hasn't changed. I don't know when
No.
they're going to finish it.
I don't think it's meant to be here.
Oh no, that was jackhammered in there.
Yeah, there's a lot of things they do and change their minds. Iterations. Lots of welding going on here. Look at all those argon things.
Yep. And you could actually probably zoom in on that spot again if you wanted to.
Which one would you
It's
like me
actually-
to zoom in on?
Well, just how it's connected, to see that line a little bit better. So you can see the weld line at the bottom and the top.
Here?
Yeah, you can see it just barely, just above that. Yeah. Anyways, I'm fixated on that. Yeah, there's that long pipe that they need to install. There was test stand B.
Test and B.
They even painted large elements of that new staircase, which is interesting.
And if we go back to that last photo, Niall was pointing out that we're already getting shielding on the bottom deck of the new staircase.
Oh wow, yeah, I didn't notice that just till now. So yeah, apparently they're going to shield it all, which is good because otherwise the staircase is a little bit less likely to survive the test flight. Now,
What
here's a
is?
question. Oh, go ahead.
I was just wondering what this is. Just a hanging piece of something?
Tarp.
Okay.
Tarp, blowing tarp caught in mid-flight with light shining through the thin parts.
Aye, Captain.
Yeah,
Sorry,
there's holes,
Thomas.
so really thin parts.
You were saying something else, Thomas. I apologize.
It was a question specifically related to the table. Now I can't remember what the question was. Never mind.
I think you do that on purpose to make me feel bad. Just kidding.
No, I know the general idea of the question. I just can't remember the question itself.
Isn't this bad that we can see this seal so clearly?
Well, that's a protective cover. It's a metal plate over the insulation.
Why did they miss parts?
Well, they haven't covered all of it, only just these small segments. And there's bracketry that's resting on it, or that it's resting on to the right. That's why there is no plate cover, and that's the bend. So there's a little bit of an angle right there for that plate, and it's, I think, for all of them.
Oh
yeah,
boy.
I think there's a bend at each of the brackets.
We are at 8 minutes out, kids.
Should we go through a couple of questions or?
Yes, please.
Yes.
All right, first I'm gonna call out a couple of donations here from Jim Cavett, $5. Great job today, thanks. Thank you, Jim Cavett. SpockX had a question. Where is the Booster 10 transport stand since it has to be on the stand for final stack?
A curious question. Many of the stands are being refurbished right now. Booster 5 stand has been missing in action for months now. Presumably it's been in the Mega Bay. I'm sure they could use that. And even if they didn't use that stand long term, they could just lift Booster 10 onto a new stand once it's stacked. But I mean, I'm sure they could use Booster 5s. There's like an 80% chance it's in there. So, yeah.
Thanks, Jax. Next questions from Cosmic, member for 2 months. How thick are the boosters in ships?
How
thick?
What's the density of the metal? I'm sure they're asking.
Nominally 4 millimeter on everything, maybe 3 point something on the upper part of the barrel of the nose cone. Will probably be the only thinner piece.
And then the nose cone itself is 3.6 on that, and maybe a little bit thinner.
Yeah. Steel labels aren't something. At least steel labels with the thicknesses are often few and far between when it comes to actually the section of the vehicle they go on. But yeah, 4, 3.6, mostly 4 it seems, 4 millimeter.
What is this?
Thrust ram.
And you're seeing the center 3 for the 3 pucker, or the shuck pucker, and then you've got 3 poles or columns on the outside for the 3 vacuum Raptors. And this is test stand A.
Test stand A.
All right. We got Astro Joe who gifted 1 membership. Thank you, Astro Joe. And we got a couple more donations here. D1 just became a member for 2 months. 420 24/7 winky face. Thank you, D1. Scat 1975 donated $10. Break in the action at UFC London, so quickly buying the ticket. Choo choo. Thank you, Scat. And we have a couple questions here. I think we already kind of touched base on this, but how many cameras from Mini Dr. M? How many cameras have you spotted at the launch site? I don't think anybody's actually done a tally of the amount of cameras since there's so many, and probably some that we can't even see, right?
I don't have enough fingers and toes. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, like it's easy to lose count. Like, yeah, you have to remember they have cameras watching absolutely everything, like their engineering cams and things like that. It's an absurd amount.
Pretty much anywhere you look, if you look closely, you're looking at a camera.
Yeah, there's like cameras inside the launch table. I'd estimate there's at least 50 visible cameras on site, and then probably double or triple that for the cameras you don't see. So you could be looking at like 150 cameras.
Oh, I bet there's probably north of 300.
Just on the launch site.
Oh yeah, I'm talking total Starbase. I bet SpaceX security and engineering have at least 300 video assets scattered around.
I do like that they cover the booster bells now. Sorry, Raptor bells now. I like this.
Yeah, it looks nice.
Keeps them from clanging too.
It's winter. We want them to put their winter jackets on.
And they did. And this is the miniskirt shielding.
Yep. That's the stuff that I'm hoping goes away.
Why would it go away?
Weight. So it's to protect the power head. If you don't need to protect the power head because everything's been brought internal into other pipes, that can go away. It's not needed. It's not necessary. So you could get rid of the mini skirt and you just see the power heads with pipe and conduit all over the place, and everything's protected and ready to go.
Is this deployed? The pin?
It's retracted in that position, so it's not engaged into the booster at that point.
Interesting.
And you can sort of see the travel on it.
Yeah, I was looking at this.
The oil, that and the oily. Well, that's up and down. That whole thing moves up and down. So that's what the cable track's for.
Gotcha. So it goes. Okay. And so the deployment.
Pin itself, you can see the cylinder on top of it, and you can see the oily spot. Like, yep, that would be about to the sleeve when it was extended.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, so it extends into it, and that's the point where it goes drips all the way in. That's why it's not as dusty.
Oh, it's dust or not dripping? Okay.
Well, there's the sleeve up above, which will have oil on it, and this one has just the dust.
We got another donation here. Sorry, Dave. We got another donation here from James L. Blast off for $10. Blast off booster 7, ship 24 on 420. If y'all haven't voted on the poll, I put out the predictions for the orbital launch. Go and vote right now. It looks like April 20th. People are believing on that particular day or leaning more towards that day. What do y'all think? I don't know if y'all seen the poll yet.
I voted. I think 420.
Well, I voted for 420, but I like Jessica Kirsch's comment on May the 5th be with you. May the 4th be with you. May the 4th be with you.
It'd be nice if it was before May 5th, because that 2-year mark isn't. I don't know. It'd be nice to have it not hit the 2-year mark since serial number 15 flew. But hey, whatever happens, happens. I mean, there's still work to be done. The vehicles aren't ready to go.
There's this big pile of dirt we're looking at in this photo right here.
Yeah, like there's still a lot of work.
Where did that dirt come from? I'm kind of confused on that. Like, we are looking at that dirt coming from the other side of the concrete pad?
For the HESCO barriers. Wouldn't it be for the HESCO barriers?
It looks to me like where the excavator is the extension of the trench.
Oh.
And I see they've got some formwork in the trench as well. You see the bottom left corner.
Yep.
And if May the 4th didn't work out, they could have Revenge of the 6th.
Do we have any more questions, Mauricio?
Yes, we have another question here from Jeff. Since the welds on the ship and booster do rust, what metal are they using to do the... I think we already answered this one, right? Love all the awesome coverage you people bring us.
Well, so it's just the surface of the welds that are corroded. And it's going to be 304L stainless steel is what they're using. There's some other elements that they're like the stringers, they'll use 301, but overall, it's just the surface material. And if that is still an issue in the future that they would like to correct, it's a simple fix, which is a zinc, like basically paste or coating that you can basically apply like paint. You even actually can get zinc paint. But anyways, that is a simple solution. And what happens is the zinc oxidizes on the surface layer, prevents any corrosion further in, which that's basically what's going on already. Is that surface area is corroded and it's not really penetrating through the rest of the weld.
All right, next question is from Nose Cone Gel. How much propellant needs to be produced for 3 launches a day? And what's the cost per ton of propellant?
Oh,
Ooh,
I
that's
need Grandpa Joe for that answer, but we need 5,000 tons per ship per launch or something like that. Does that sound right? Even more than that.
Yeah,
6,500.
it's 5,000 tons of propellant, which is going to be the methane of the LOX. But you're talking about each one. The commodities themselves go up and down in price. So, for instance, they have their own oxygen generation plant. They can basically produce their own in bulk when that gets going. But the problem is how much the electricity costs. So you want to keep it going for a plant like that because you don't want to stop and start, which you could, but it's going to really cut into your budget even worse than it would be otherwise. So you want to continuously generate, let's say, your LOX, your nitrogen, and then do the same thing for methane. And they might be able to do that with the port. The costs themselves are going to be dependent on the market price of the electricity or for your suppliers. So that one's going to be an undeterminate cost. Elon does want to bring it down to about $2 million. So that would be they're producing their own electricity, their own methane, their own LOX, all of those things so that they can bring those costs even further down.
All right, we have another question here from Short Aristocrat. What are all the cables and ropes for? I'm assuming he's referring to the welding cables or the electrical cables for the welding rigs on the OLM.
I would assume that is correct. Yeah, there's ropes and welding cables running from the ground up to the catwalks on the OLM for hauling stuff up and down, for the welding, just for all sorts of stuff. They have ropes and welding cables everywhere.
Are those 220 for the most of those lines for welding?
A lot of what they got there is actually the electrode cable, so it's low voltage, high current. Other ones they have small portable welders like what they were using for the shield welding, and those are probably just 120.
Okay.
Yeah,
Wow, what a tangled mess.
Look at that mess up there.
One other thing to mention while we're looking at this image, the top scaffolding. We talked about this, I think, in the after show last week. And Dave, you were mentioning that the scaffolding itself is just because they do not have a railing on the inside, and so this is basically what their safety lines are going to be attached to, and it's a OSHA violation not to have a safety railing or something there, and so they put scaffolding there.
I think that was actually Zach, but yes.
Oh, okay.
we got another
Just
question.
remembering who said what.
We got a question here from Mini Dr. M. I'm going to throw this one to Jax. What is in the booster chines?
What is in the booster's chines? Yeah, so there are 4 chines on the booster. 2 of them are larger, 2 of them are smaller. And I'm going to talk about the upgraded boosters. We're talking booster 9 onwards. So the 2 larger chines, which are going to be towards the away from the QD, furthest away from the tower. There's 5 COPVs in each, totaling up to 10. There's 1 battery under each, that'll be 2. And various other high pressure canisters, probably for the pneumatic system on board, and some other electrical systems, things like that. The 2 smaller chines towards the QD, towards the tower. There's some type of pipe system underneath of them. It could be maybe could be used as some kind of a high pressure tank or accumulator, or I'm not sure what they'd be running to, but there's what almost looks like 2 pipes under each, totaling up to 4. So yeah, they're just used to cover some various pieces of hardware. Do we have any other questions?
We have I'll get one more question here from Crane Man. Did you did you superimpose the pipe sections for the water deluge between the OLM legs? We did do a sample last week. I don't know if you recall, Thomas.
Yeah.
I think what Crane Man's asking is, can we put something out maybe with the deluge pipes shown? I don't think we really know exactly the setup for that yet, right?
Well, you have it in the live comms from last week. It's just you need to start. If you want to scroll up and grab that one, I'll actually copy the message link for that.
Which one do you want me to get?
So just grab the link I just posted in live comms, and that should be just
there we go.
from last week.
Gotcha.
And if you want to bring up that image,
yep,
that would basically be the sample, and it's really close to what I estimate to be the correct answer for that.
Yeah, I'm going to say I probably disagree with that, because you can't put anything between the legs because there is a foundation there. All the piping has to be outside.
From what I should have shown here, it should be on the outside. But
the trapezoid pieces are between the legs, and they would have to be outside the legs.
Yeah, can you zoom down a little bit?
Right. I saw a diagram or a sketch from Chrome Kiwi that was a little bit more accurate to what Dave is talking about. Maybe I can find that and we can show that if it's okay.
Well, the one I saw from Chrome Kiwi had him even further inside. Philly Kid did a drawing that shows everything outside, and what he's got, and I think it might be right, is the straight pieces go between the trapezoid pieces to make the large hexagon.
Can you zoom down at the bottom of the legs, because that's what we're trying to show in Instar?
Yep, sorry.
There we go. Okay, so yeah, those are between the legs, sort of. So it's close. It's halfway between would be closer to being correct.
The inside of the trapezoid would have to be outside the line between the legs, because there is a 6-foot square concrete box tying the legs together at ground level.
Oh, right.
So nothing can go between the legs that has pipes underneath it.
Yeah, so the scale is a little bit off.
Yeah, that was Philly Kid's comment. This is sketched up what Chrome Kiwi did. Everything has to slide outward to avoid the actual structural foundation of the OLM.
Yeah, so on the outside of the legs then would be the maximum limit for where you can go in for the trapezoid pieces. And the size and scale is actually a little bit off. So like the ones that just to the right of this little doghouse that you've got on the left side, with that two little red pieces sticking up that it looked like I don't know, poles. Anyways, those were going to be a little bit more squashed as far as especially that plate. I expect the pipe itself will be a very thin pipe. We have a couple of those at Sanchez, so that'll probably go here because you do have that trench right there, and you just have like this tiniest amount of room to put something, and that's where you could basically do it.
So this is the old one.
This was the old one. This would be the wrong one
well,
because it's too close inside the legs, and that's what Dave is talking about. So the problem is that this entire hexagon on the inside, he has it right where it shouldn't be. It should be pulled out. This is the old one, by the way. But
yeah, I'll get you the other one, as long as Kiwi doesn't mind. Hopefully, Kiwi doesn't mind.
And I think this piece here with the elbow and the straight pipe is what we were seeing on that trailer at the build site.
Okay, I thought it was closer to this, not in the center. Oh, that's confusing. I have to look at the flyover pictures. We'll have a bunch of those hopefully here soon next week.
Cross your fingers for Wednesday or Thursday, good weather and airplane availability.
I definitely appreciate all the effort that you and the pilot go through each week, Mauricio, to make these happen.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a lot of behind the scenes. A lot of behind the scenes that happens just trying to get these flights to happen. We did talk, I don't know if I should throw it, but if anybody's selling an aircraft, 172 or 182, DM me. We might be interested. I know we threw out that idea back in, yesterday, right? That's when we talked about it for a bit.
Yeah.
But you just never know. Like maybe there's an aircraft that's within our budget. That's, I think that's probably a route that we want to take or consider, right?
Yeah, it's definitely worth looking at for aircraft availability. Ah, there we go. Perfect.
That's more like what I expect it might actually be.
Now, the interesting part is these boxes that he has here. It's like they could fit, but they don't actually fit with the pipe. It's really odd.
So PK also has these older photos from Chrome Kiwi that he, I think, modeled. That Kiwi, oh, maybe not. There's also these. Doggone it. These are RGB ones. There you go. This is the
Yep.
box, the hexagon. And
you've got some short little. I can't remember if those are piles for the center part, or if they just went through and just left the little pads. But yeah, that is the shape of the pad that you cannot go into. That they're structurally being held together by the rebar and the concrete. You start cutting to that, you've got 5,000 metric tons of vehicle above you. You don't want those separating and cracking and just destroying itself.
did you want to go back to his photo or his drawing?
Yeah, that'll be good.
Okay. His drawing is right here. No? No. I will figure out what the drawing is because it seems to have gone somewhere.
It's probably on another tab on this browser, I think.
I'm sure. Here we go.
But yeah, that's
start again.
There we go.
I'll make it smaller. There you go.
Now, the other part that is a little bit off on this is these pieces with the holes here. So they have two sets of holes for the pipes. So what I expect we'd probably see is that longer part of the trapezoid would actually be closer to the inside. So the scale is still a bit off on this. The pieces aren't that big that it would be going underneath. I don't expect them to be. So there should be a plate going to the left and a plate going to the right with holes on it, and that would seem to make a little bit more sense.
But good job, Kiwi.
Yeah, this is cool. I like this. It works out in describing what we're trying to show.
And then back to the launch site. We are about 15 minutes over the hour, over the top of the hour.
Wow.
Yeah.
And we have a lovely collection of scrap steel being collected there in those Steel Coast dumpsters.
And our favorite little two, whatever these are.
Shipping containers.
This is the end of our pipes that come out of the launch tank farm and run along the wall, and they end up here, and that's about all we know about them.
They've got a little bit of gaseous methane going to them, it appears, as well. So I'm thinking generators, but there's no heat exchanger system.
While you're here,
or pumps.
Can you zoom in on all that signage on that door, Indy? Okay, that's definitely an old AT&T tower case.
It's a telecom hut.
it's a for real telecom hut that they've repurposed.
I'm just wondering, if they could stick a little label on there and say what it is, and it might be just right above that keypad, or that keypad's just like, here's a code.
I think that's all. I think that's all old AT&T stuff.
Yeah, probably. But that sign right there, that's white. That's newer. I don't know how new.
But I mean, they've got the lockbox on the knob.
The lockbox is the best. This is like the realtor's lockbox right here to get you
That's
in.
That's exactly what it is.
Oh wait, what's the what's
the danger tag say?
Can hoist.
Contact HP.
Can what?
Oh.
Live panels, hot panels.
What is this word?
High power.
Contact
high power.
Oh.
the high power group is the electrical distribution people at Starbase. Live panels, hot panels.
And you're locked out. You're not supposed to go in here.
Yeah, it's a lockout tag.
That's a lockout tag out.
Can you zoom over to the left? There's another little piece of writing. It might solve things. Who knows? It said something like Exxon or something. I don't know.
Selexion.
Okay, yeah, there's an I right
That's
there.
who made
But
the
anyways,
hut. That's who made the hut.
I was hoping it would be like, this is for the water deluge or water pump system or whatever it could be. That would be nice.
That dates back to when AT&T had this on a cell tower.
Yeah.
What are those?
Oh, well.
Penetrations.
Like foam. That's where they filled in with the penetration with foam.
That's fire retardant penetration fill. And there used to be a J box on the outside of the wall there, probably electrical for the hut.
Interesting.
But I do like the fact that it still has the AT&T signage on it. Once again, SpaceX is recycling as only SpaceX will do.
It's called reusability for a reason.
The best part of recycling is reusing. Well, I think that's about it, unless you've got anything else that's been popping up that's huge. I don't know if anything at the launch site that was we have to jump at this that we haven't already.
Yeah.
Well, the only thing at the launch site that we need to jump to we don't know about because it's the trench and the stuff that we can't see from the ground.
Yeah.
So you're saying we need aerial photos?
I'm not saying that. I'm just sort of wishing it.
Wish as you may, wish as you might. Next week might be your time tonight.
That's right.
We need good weather, and that's the first thing.
Wednesday.
No winds on Wednesday, please.
We did get one more membership. Actually, T. Evans gifted one membership to somebody, so thank you, T. Evans, for that. And for me, I mean, I'll keep you all posted on that. I already booked Wednesday and Thursday, like we talked about earlier, and we're just hoping that it works out.
Well, I did see somebody post in the stream earlier on, I think on the lounge or somewhere, week's weather forecast, and Wednesday and Thursday were the best looking days of the coming week.
Well, good, Mauricio. You planned well as usual. So should we say our goodbyes then? I'll just lead us off with the images in the background.
Sure.
Dave, you want to start?
That's fine.
Sorry, Thomas.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'll start it out. Thank you, everybody, for watching. What is this? Episode 65.
65.
Starbase Weekly, and I will toss it to Indy.
Oh, hey. Thanks for listening. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Join us next week. Hopefully we'll have a whole new set of 500 photos, which Mauricio loves to give us between ground and aerial, and we love to have. So join us next week, and thank you for joining us this week. Mauricio.
Yes, I want to thank everybody that donated, supported us, and we're doing our best to do that flyover. And one thing I didn't talk about, I really do want to make a big Twitter campaign to try and get Elon. I know he's a busy guy, he's busy with other things, but how cool would it be we can get him before the orbiter launch on the stream here? May for episode. What episode would that be? Episode 69 at that point?
That would be appropriate, yes. In fact, it would be 69.
So we'll keep you updated on that. We're going to need all the help we can get to try and get the message out there for him. And other than that, thank you very much for watching, and I'll pass it along to Thomas or Dave.
Thomas or Jax? Jax, you want to take it?
Yeah, Jax, go first.
Well, thank you, everybody. Yet another wonderful episode in the books. So, I mean, I guess I'll see you at some point eventually. And yeah, Thomas.
It's been an amazing week, and I'll wrap it up with saying main stage cutoff. Love you, bye.
Bye.